First thing you smell right here. Popcorn. Pop it.
Pop, 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 popcorn. Pop, pop, popcorn.
Don't mind if I do.
Help us out.
Are you going to the art show?
I intend to, let's see.
I forgot that we leave the next
I know, we
morning.
didn't really get next one.
There's like, do you? I kind of do. I like the yellow.
That's not that Muppet chat.
It's nice.
Are you coming to
Do you know people keep stopping me on the street and
I
saying,
bet. I bet they do.
"You're so colorful." They're like, "What happened to Big Bird?" This was an expensive Big Bird.
That's Margot's favorite. Big Bird? Big Bird? Loved Elmo now, Big Bird.
Hey.
Hey,
Well, we can take a show instead. I know. He told me. I want to see water.
He wanted to go to, the library is the best parks in Washington.
I know, better than,
Oh, yeah. Wait. Oh, newer. How much left? Did you still have that listing on your screen? Nope, it expired.
Hi.
it's jazz. I have to figure out which.
Hey, Phil.
How are you?
Man.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. I'm seeing you. This is so weird.
Yeah, I know.
Good to stare
Look
at
at that guy. How you
Come on
doing?
in. Good.
Thanks, man.
Good.
That's great.
Hey, come on. What do you need from us?
Honestly, I've got a PowerPoint thing I'm gonna throw on to help me remember what I was supposed to talk about. Other than that, if you have one of the clickers, I'll use it, but if you don't, I'll just hit next one.
We're all mouse and keyboard. Clickers, that's old time.
That's all time. We like the low-tech solution, doesn't break.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm all set, man, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll get everybody piling in still.
What do you think, give me a, well, it's not even.
Oh, yeah, no, we're still early. Sunny likes to have water up here, room temperature. Is there like a preference for you?
I'll grab a coffee, I'll probably, hey, grab my bottle of water. Yeah, I'll grab a glass of water. You don't need to do that
Is it
much.
room temperature? Is it chill?
No.
Sunny dump is very specific.
He likes
He's
warm
got,
water,
he's got
right?
a rider that he sends ahead of time. So
Does he?
we've got like Smarties, but he doesn't like red.
It's
It's a very demanding man.
just a mountain of.
Nothing but the name.
No, it was Sarah's birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tell him say happy birthday.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
You guys have some.
Lisa, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, how about you?
Everybody goes at the back, but everybody sits on the aisle. These are the aisles.
Check 1, 2.
How much what, sorry? No, I have no idea. I think that, are you do both, right?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay, since we've got it on the table, we've got it in the video. Like, you know, I bet.
I saw some people around the right bike stop because
I would ask them. Off the top of my head, I know it's not cheap. But it's a good, it's nicely done.
yeah, it was very nice.
We also used them for our, we had a listing, in Richmond Hill.
Yeah.
We used them for that too.
Oh, yeah. Is this more like you should showcase at the neighborhood type stuff?
No, it was good. We've used them for a couple of our listings. So I'm sure we'll be using them coming up for our listing on government. What? The lifestyle video piece. We're gonna need more chairs. Oh, no, here. Linked together. So are you doing nap time as well as overnight cried out?
Sorry? She won't nap. Yeah, it's a weird thing. She's, she'll only nap if she's on you. So she's like champagne tastes. Anyways.
No, because that's when we talked to the sleep consultant person, that was more of the trouble, was nailing the naps. And that took just two weeks of super strictness, where it's the nights with the days. It's simple.
Is there a method that she uses, or it's just her experience that she's like,
It's
they
really
follow
the
this?
Ferber method of just letting it cry it out.
Yeah, which method?
Ferber. Ferber.
I think I've heard it, and it's like that big one, right?
Yeah, the whole thing is like, when you do go in, you're in for less than 60 seconds.
That we're doing, you don't pick them up. I'm here to tell you to go to sleep.
Yeah, I'm still here, pat, 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 go to bed.
Yeah.
And then longer and longer and longer. And it's the same for naps, the trouble with naps, but you need to like have a schedule, so it's like naps are 12 and 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
Timing is. And so
And you know what, she's fresh too, like you guys,
That was good.
I think we tried starting a little early, because she was like,
They said there's
Started-
no point.
that's what happened. She was
Yes,
falling
hopefully,
asleep in her
I'll
own
see.
room
Okay.
for 4 months, we're like, okay, well, now we're going,
Yeah.
let's jump in. And then she had a regression, and the whole thing like
If you knew.
got worse basically.
Yeah.
I'll bring them here. That will bring in the people.
Yeah, I
Those
love
are
you.
big.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
There's a crazy baby running around.
Good, how are you?
No. I
Do you
haven't.
ever try more vegetables and like veggies? What is it, burger you have?
No, we're having a skating party at Granite.
Oh, nice.
And
We're having burgers.
chicken fingers.
Chicken fingers. I'm really proud. Granite chicken fingers are so good.
Or if you're around on Saturday night, come to the party.
Skating party.
Has Marco been skating?
No, we have cheater on there.
Yeah. Charlie is kind of.
Yeah?
He has those ones, like, just
The
the.
doubles?
Yeah, flop skates.
Saturday, I'm not
I would rather just meet you too.
You just have pictures.
You come bring chicken fingers.
Mostly cold
I'll put it in
calls.
my phone.
Yeah, I do a lot of
How
cold
do you
calls.
make
I did a lot of kids calls last year, and that was fun. I like arguing with people, so that part worked. I'm weaning off though, because I found that after doing it for a year, I still did nothing like that time. Because you're lead getting people that hate you. Whereas with a cold call, I still get like a 5 or 10% conversion rate because I've done it a lot. And you can bet on moving right away, I get to build a relationship. So the relationship gets better, whereas with for sale by owners, it gets worse. Because they've got 1,000 agents.
Do you know Bianca?
No.
Pardon?
She's very
Yeah, exactly. Cold call, ad, and whatever you do, basically, you're always gonna be adding people to your database and then following after that. So.
Okay, it is my great pleasure
Free rates.
to introduce, possibly one of the more famous Provencher brothers. One gets credited with a lot of stuff, but we have with us tonight one of the stars of Dangerous Child. Seriously, the Path Group really been amazing in sort of in the growth and trajectory. It's really, I think, a big honor for us to be able to grab a Provencher at any time and have them spend time training us in what they do best. So, with no further ado, the best half of the Path team.
Thanks for coming, guys. This is fun. Today's gonna be about listings, so I'm gonna take you guys through kind of how to set the stage. I'm gonna do my presentation. I'll try to get through quick enough that at the end we'll have 15-20 minutes if you guys want to hammer me with some objections. I'm game. I've been in the business around a dozen years. Started out at Remax, had a great time there, loved it, and then we wanted growth. We came to KW just because we were looking for systems and tools, and this is kind of where you go for that. Been here for 6 or so years, had a really amazing career, threw ourselves into the training, really adopted the model. Our business is probably grown by about 5 times since we came to KW. And my brother and I are really fortunate. We've been invited to a lot of the top groups, so like we go down to Gary Keller's mastermind group and stuff like that. I was a MAPS coach for a couple of years. That was a really cool experience. And spent a few years really focused on recruiting. I got right out of trading for a little while, had my team doing everything. Wasn't really happy with the results we were getting, and threw myself back in about, coming up on a couple of years soon, and got off to a screaming start. When I came back, I did a lot of FISBOs because they were just right now business, and I'd given my pipeline away to the team, so I needed something that I could chase right now. We're very much kind of grassroots in the way that we get our business. We do a lot of cold calls, a lot of door knocks, just the basics multiplied by a lot of experience in scripting. And my business personally, I don't do buyers because I don't like to work on weekends. I do take evening appointments, obviously, and occasionally I'll go out and meet someone if they're only available on a weekend for a listing appointment. But about 90-95% of my business is listings, so I don't make money if I don't sell my listings, and it's all I do. I just chase listings. And I'm gonna share everything I do with you guys. I'm gonna share some of our tools. I'm gonna pass around my listing binder and stuff. You guys can take a peek. And you're gonna hear me repeat the word scripting a lot today. This is the one thing everyone should do if they wanna actually make more money in this business without working harder. And yeah, that's it. I'm ready to get started if you guys are. I think we're right at the point here to go. Does anyone have any questions before we get started?
Let's go.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Pictures of your binder?
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, the one thing I don't do is I don't send out our branded stuff because I don't want people to cut my name out. But we put a lot of energy into it, and I would do that if someone handed me a PDF, and that's my person who makes it all for me would kill me if we did. But yeah, absolutely, I'd be happy to. You guys are more than welcome to take pictures of anything you want. Any other questions?
Are you still coaching?
No, I resigned from MAPS because I had a split focus. I was trying to be a recruiter, an agent, and a coach. And I was doing a crummy job of 3 different things, and I wanted to do a really good job of one thing, so I resigned, and it's a really cool, really neat company to work for, you know, maybe down the road, but right now I just want to sell tiny houses. Yeah. Yeah, we're not a big group. We got about, well, we got exactly 4 licenses on our team. 3 of us have been on the team for over half a decade. 2 of those are my brother and I, so we've been there since the beginning. But we're productive, so last year we did 67 million in volume, 87 transactions, total GCI 1.5. And we have a 48% profit margin because we're writing the deals, we're doing a lot of work. So we're really, really happy with our numbers. I'll just tell you guys, it's not the topic today, but if you haven't put a budget in place in your business, there's not a lot left if you're not careful with how you spend your money. That was one thing that we really learned when we were building our team out. So you gotta watch yourself. Any other questions before we start? I wanna just take 5 quick minutes. I'm gonna zoom through the room and just get a feel for what people are up to here. I wanna just get first name, how long you've been in the business, what you want from today, and if you're not from Keller Williams, tell us where you're from. We love having guests. So we're gonna start with you because you were so nice to speak up and putting you on the spot.
So my name's Monique. I've been with KW for about 3 years now. I've been a licensed agent for about 4 years. I'm focusing now on just working with sellers.
Great.
And we do mini transformations with our clients' homes to put on the market and try to put ice cream.
Good. So do we. That's a huge. But you know what? Not to digress, we're gonna get back to this in a sec. If you want to charge 5%, you got to do more than photos and brochures. You know, like my average bill is $20,000-$30,000 just for me. So yeah, good for you. What's your name?
My name's Assad, 50 years in business. One of the things I appreciated you said is that you don't work weekends. That'd be nice.
Can't do that with fires.
James, 4 years in the business. We really want to focus now on listing quicker business like yourself and expireds and visuals as well. But really, really happy with Keller Williams. Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
Robin, 3 years in business, 3 years with Keller Williams. I'm the buyer agent on the Kashansky Brown team. I work a lot of retail. And I'm starting to do a little more listing.
Great. Awesome. Right on.
Hello, sorry I was late.
Oh, I didn't even notice. You shouldn't have said
Right
anything.
on. Transparency. Ryan McGee, I'm with Chestnut Park. I've been there for 14 years.
Welcome.
And thank you very, very much. And just excited, the topics of what you shared on your bio resonated, so I'm here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's fun. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Great.
Jonathan Lee, I've been in the business 2 years now. Been with Keller Williams for like 3 months, 4 months. Just excited.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Just
We have popcorn here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just looking to learn kind of from other experienced agents and, apply it to my own prospecting and everything.
Cool. Okay. Awesome.
Hi, my name is Goran. I started a year ago, but actually I think that my real start will be from next month.
Next month. All right. Awesome.
Nice.
Get ready. Mark your calendars, guys. Take it off.
Hello, I'm Emma. Been licensed for about a month and a half now. Joining my sister and my dad, and ready to learn.
Cool. Awesome.
I'm Katie Young. I've been licensed for almost 15 years, and I don't remember what the other thing was supposed to say.
And she doesn't listen.
Good to have
I'm Leslie, I'm newly licensed as well, so I'm just here to learn sort of the basics and learn from everyone here, everyone's experience.
you. Great, awesome.
My name is Michael Terry. I started out with Right at Home, did 6 years there, Jonathan and Daniel, 3 years, and now joined Keller Williams, so this is 1 year, coming up on 1 year. I'm looking forward to what you have to say about Keller Williams.
Cool, awesome, great. We're gonna keep going in the back.
I'm Heidi Heensoth. I've been licensed for, I'm not quite sure, 12 to 15 years, but only practicing for the last 7. And I have been with Keller Williams for just over a year, and I'm loving it, and always learning something new. So,
Great.
yes.
Fantastic.
My name is Lisa Ma, and I have my license for about 2 years now. And I started with Keller Williams, I guess it was September, and loving it.
Great.
Hi, I'm Katya Heensoth. I am currently going through the course, so I'm not licensed, but I'm working with my mom as her assistant, and I'm just here to learn and just soak everything in.
There's no harm in starting to learn in advance. You get through those courses and you still have everything you're gonna actually need to know to learn, so.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah, totally. Start putting together your numbers too, right? Like, don't make calls or anything, but, you know, making sure you got people's emails and numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can't hurt to touch base.
Hi, my name is Vignesh. I'm from Remax. I've been doing it for the last 7 years. But I took about 3 bold courses, and I went to the family reunion too.
Nice.
I do a lot of buying side, but I want to get you the listing like you. I don't want to off weekend, not even Friday.
Great, awesome.
Beautiful. I want to do.
I'm Chris Wadwani. I'm brand new to real estate also, just joined this month, and I'm here trying to do my best impression of a sponge and soak all this in. And that's what I'm doing.
Great.
Good, Janice Jardy, I'm the team leader here, also business consultant, so I'm really looking to learn new ways that I can add value to coaching sessions.
Great, awesome. Mr. David Young, he's kind of here.
I'm David, 34 years, and we really never had a real listing presentation.
We've never
I
had
want
a
to see yours, and I hear already that scripting is such an important part, so we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, scripting's huge. I always, like, if you think about it, in our business, even an average home, if you write one side of it, is probably a $15,000 paycheck. Does anyone here know what tuition is at Harvard for a year?
60 something.
60. Yeah, it's around 60 American. So that means that if you, once per quarter, say something dumb, or don't know the smart thing to say in a situation when someone asks you a tough question, you lose a transaction. Put your hands up if that happens to you every quarter. It happens to me, and I do a lot of scripting, and everyone should have their hands up. Look, just be honest with yourselves. At least once a quarter you lose a piece of business because something didn't come out right or whatever. So right now you're paying a Harvard tuition to not spend 15, 20 minutes on the phone 3-4 times a week with a couple pals, bouncing stuff off other realtors before you experiment on your clients. So scripting is absolutely transformative. It doesn't turn you into a robot. I didn't do it for years. I thought I'd be like this weird sales guy who'd just spit out all this stuff that didn't sound like me. It's just knowing great reactions to tough questions. That's all scripting is. And then you make it your own and you get comfortable, it just becomes part of your language. So highly, highly recommend that. Another thing that, just before I jump in all the good stuff, there are a couple people here saying that they want to transition to focusing on listings. It's kind of a tricky thing because if you look at the business, if you want to do mostly listings, you can do that with a relatively small amount of time invested. But what you invest your time in instead is lead generation. Because you need to generate a ton of leads to get enough listings to survive. And when you're still working with buyers as a significant portion of your business, they take that time away from you. Buyers are time consuming. So there's this momentum thing you've got to go through when you're about to make the leap. Probably, you know, I would say 90 to 180 days of hard lead generation while still working your buyer pipeline or using a showing assistant just to get your listing pipeline built so that you can make the jump with confidence and hire a buyer's agent to be able to provide for them and all that stuff. So it's not easy, but once you make the jump and you've got your pipeline turning over and things are going well, then you get your weekends back, which is really, really sweet. So
What about open houses though?
what about them?
If you have a listing, can you?
You don't need to open those.
I certainly don't do them. I put it like this, I've got people on my team who do my open houses, and that's just a scripting thing, right? So when I'm with my sellers, it's just a simple, understand that it won't be me here because you don't want me there, because if a buyer comes through and attaches to me, all of a sudden we're stuck in multiple rep. What I'd much rather do is qualify all the sign calls personally for you, then send them through with my buyer's agent so that he can represent them if we have an offer, and you keep me on your side of the table where I belong. So there's a script for everything, right? So yeah, I've never had that problem. I had that problem once last year with this completely unreasonable woman who sold her house, and then I didn't have to deal with her anymore. So occasionally you get those things, but it really doesn't matter too much. Yeah, cool. All right, well, let's jump in. Come on in. We'll figure it out. There's a seat right here.
We're door people.
We're door people.
She's adorable.
My jam. Oh, it's fun. You're funny.
All right, guys, I don't have many rules. Feel free to step out. I get it, you're in business. You need to make a call. Just try to start the call when you're outside the door. If you have questions, please get my attention. I'm gonna just start going here. So slow me down if you need me to slow down, etc. Please participate. So I love when people are involved. To be honest, this is a really nice size of a group. I've probably got 20 people here. There's enough room for all of us. We're squished in like sardines. It's gonna get really hot in here. You're gonna get to see me sweat. And what that means is if you guys are okay with it, I like almost to treat this as a mastermind. So if you guys disagree, if you have something that you want to add, just shout it out. I don't need hands going up. Don't be polite. And finally, one thing that I always recommend, if you're going to take any training, my training, anyone else's training, don't go home and say I'm implementing these 5 things. Choose one thing that you should implement and just focus on that till you actually nail it. Otherwise, you're going to start 5 projects, you're going to do a crap job with all 5, nothing's going to happen, and you're going to say, Sean's a joke, doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay? So, for a listing, this is not a lead gen course, first of all, so we're not going to get into how to generate listing leads. That's another subject we could spend many hours on. Today, I just want to talk about winning listings, converting them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up to the before, so we're going to talk about everything you do to set yourself up. And then talk a little bit about stuff that happens after, and I'm going to take you through my presentation. Okay? So let's talk about qualifying the appointment. Who knows what this is? What would that mean?
Calling in before you go to your listing appointment.
Yeah.
Asking them questions, finding out as much as you can.
Yep, exactly. So we're going to pre-qualify them. What do you guys think you'd want to look for?
They're interviewing other agents.
Interviewing other agents? Absolutely.
Motivation.
Motivation? Yeah.
Where they're moving to.
Where they're moving to?
Timeline.
Timeline?
Who else is on the title?
Who else is on title? That's a huge one. Who here has gone to a listing presentation and one of the owners wasn't there? Yeah, so that can be a real hiccup, right? Especially if it's going well, it's almost worse, because you're like, damn it, I can't do anything here, my hands are tied. So we definitely want to find that out. Another thing, we actually go 2 layers deep on that one, and I'm glad you brought it up, because we always ask if there's any other decision makers who aren't on title that should be at the meeting. Because have you ever had this happen where they've got a silent partner? My brother in California knows everything about real estate. He's going to tell us how to negotiate everything because he's an expert in Toronto real estate, even though he's never been here. So you get these things sometimes, right? What else would you want to know in a pre-qual?
Mortgage.
How much is remaining on the mortgage? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
What comparables are going for in the neighborhood?
You'd ask them that?
No, you're going to do your market research before.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. When we say qualifying, usually what we're talking about is a conversation with the seller. So questions that you're going to ask them to set the stage for you to come in understanding as much as you can about their goals. What else would fall into that conversation?
If they're gonna list, if everything goes well.
Yeah, if everything I say makes sense and you feel comfortable, would you be ready to get started right away, or is there something else? That's a great question.
Timeline is so important. 'Cause-
Timeline.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They're like, oh, we're talking in a year, like, I need to know that, right?
You need to know that. Would you still go on that appointment?
Absolutely.
100%. I'd go on I'm going on one tomorrow afternoon. Cold called them up. We're not moving for 2 years. We'd really love to know what it's worth. Yeah. You'll hear different answers on that, right? If you travel, you go to seminars and stuff, you'll hear a lot of agents who say they would never go on an appointment like that. In Toronto, we've got this incredible price point. You know, every listing you win is 15, 20 grand. I'll meet you 4 or 5 times if you need to talk. I'll listen to your personal problems. Like, there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown in the bag. You know what I mean?
Things change too, just because they say 2 years, it might be 2 years.
People lie. People lie. We had one, this guy, and he was one of these like aggressive old European dudes, really abrasive on the phone. I booked the appointment, some scheduling thing, my brother went for me. Anyways, his story was, I won't sell for a penny under $850. This was like 5 years ago. I would never have a sign on my lawn or go to MLS. And we signed him up for $750, put it on MLS the next Monday, and did an open house with a sign on the lawn. It was just like, I guess he just wanted to seem tough. And then we got in there and it was weird. Anyway, so yeah, a lot of the time people either don't know what they're talking about, but the more that you know coming in, the better prepared you are. That's the whole point of the prequel. What else do we want to ask?
I always ask them what they think it's worth.
Yeah.
So you have an idea of where their head's at.
What do you think it's worth? We have a follow-up question to that question, and you slide it right in. They don't even notice that they're answering it. It's the weirdest thing because people normally wouldn't answer this question, but we always ask, and what's the price you wouldn't go below? We just slide it in there, and sometimes the gap's huge. Like you'll get this $850 down to $750. They'll just be like, $750, I'd probably keep it. Now we've got a ball game kind of thing, you know what I mean? So that really helps. What else?
Where are you going to?
Where are you going to? Yeah. And I love that, who said that? I didn't turn my head quick enough, thank you. I love that you said that because I find a lot of the time during the pre-qualification we get so caught in the listing. We're just like, listing only, it's all we're thinking about. There's this whole other thing that they gotta do, right? So don't be the agent who only asks the one side of the coin. Make sure that you understand the whole picture. Sometimes, one of the training things, I'm not gonna do it today, because it takes a bit of time. But one of the training things we do with new people on our team is to practice qualifying. We play this game, we call it the beer with a friend game. You pretend you're out at a pub or something with your buddies. And the goal is to ask all the pre-qualifying questions in a role play, but to ask them like you guys were 2 beers deep together and you're old friends. So you just casual. And the reason I bring it up is during that game, whenever I get lost, I can't remember what to ask next, I switch houses. So, okay, great, so you're in a 4-bedroom, 2-story now, it sounds great, it's a big house, you guys said the kids moved out, where are you going to? What does that look like? Do you want 3 bedrooms or would 2 work? Okay, super, do you want a bungalow? You're willing to have a second level, would you do a row house? No, okay, and then you know, by the way, you said you're gonna buy for 7, that was your budget, what does that need, what does your house need to sell for that to happen? And you can go back and forth, and it's organic. One of the things I absolutely hate in a pre-qual is when you go through the entire conversation with someone and you build great rapport and you're having this comfortable conversation, and then you book the appointment and you're like, oh crap, I gotta do the pre-qual. I said I was gonna start doing this, so I gotta do it. And then you go from being this warm and friendly and generally useful person to like a nurse at the intake ward or something. You're like, how many bedrooms? What price do you want to list for? If I come over and you feel comfortable, you know, so you just gotta like keep it calm and casual. And again, script this stuff out, you know, don't ask these tough questions before you get there. If we don't have the decision makers and it's a signable appointment, we'll reschedule to get the decision makers. So again, it's just a little scripting thing. We always want to just make them understand that we don't want them to feel responsible to transfer everything we speak about to their spouse. So as opposed to leaving you with all this stuff and a whole hour-long conversation to interpret back to your spouse. What we'd like to do, if that's okay, is we're scheduled for a time that him, her, all the decision makers can be present so we can answer everyone's questions. Everyone's gonna have different questions. Yes?
I did that once, and then someone else snuck in because they were willing to just go and make 2 appointments. So now I just go, and then I just bite the time if I have to, and go back with the decision maker, because
There's no proven side that's better, the go first, go last debate. Because if most people interview 4 or 5 agents nowadays, which they should, because most of us are garbage. So there's this whole debate about who's gonna go, whether you try to go first or you try to go last. And I just get in the door personally. I do prefer for a signable appointment to have them all. I am not opposed to 2-step appointments. I would say actually the majority of my appointments, I casually drop by, spend 30, 40 minutes with them, talk them through the basics, and I come back for a proposal. We always call it a proposal. Say like, I'd like to come back and give you my formal proposal, go through my marketing plan. When will you be finished all your other interviews? I'd like to come give you an apples and apples comparison. So that's something we do a lot. Any other things that you want to put in the prequel?
What do you think, what condition is your home in?
What condition is your home in? Yeah. Careful that you don't make too many assumptions. I'm going to talk about this when I run you guys through how to do it. I do a CMA. I've had people who said, oh, my home's probably an 8 or a 9 and it was a 4, and I took all comps that were 8s or 9s. So just be ready that it might not be anywhere near what they described. To be honest, I no longer talk about interior condition. I'll show you guys how I do comps. When I do comps, I take the entire spread. I take their style of home is a 2-story, 3-bedroom detached. I take every 2-story bedroom, 2-story, 3-bedroom detached from the lowest price to the highest price, and I just try to have an even grade of increments so we can fit them in somewhere.
That's kind of an advantage of the 2-step, because you get to see, you know, at some point you get to see what it's like. Maybe you can see it before you pull your comps.
Yes, yeah, I always have comps. I will always have comps if I'm coming in the door, so I always have at least a zone. Sometimes it's a weird property too though, right? Like sometimes comps aren't clear, so it can really help for that. And then finally, with the 2-step, I don't mind gambling a bit, so I send my designer in the middle. So that's usually my excuse to come back and say, look, you know, I could just do like these other agents and throw a number in the air and hope that you like it. Your house is worth somewhere between here and here. I feel like I might be able to put it in this area, maybe even a little higher, with the help of my designer by doing some smart staging, and maybe you do a little painting. Since you got some more interviews, would it be okay with you if what would happen next, we'd have my designer come through, she'd spend about an hour with you talking about the home, she's gonna give me a complete summary, like 8 or 10 pages, and then I'll come back with my formal proposal, list your home, and I'll be able to tell you exactly what we listed for at that time. So they say yes, and then I say, here's the deal. I wouldn't expect any obligation from you because you're still interviewing other agents, but here's the thing. I do go out of pocket a little bit to have my designer come through. So all we ask, out of fairness, is that you wouldn't sign anything with another agent until I had the opportunity to give you my proposal. And I blocked all the other agents. We've been doing this for 6 years, once we've had them sign without us. So I lost $300, and it's a really, and my designer goes in, I've been working with her for a decade. She loves us, we're her biggest clients.
Designer stager?
The designer, I call her a designer because everyone else calls it a stager, same thing. But she goes in and she tells them that they'd be crazy not to list with us.
Oh, wow.
So it helps. Yeah, totally. Who are the other agents? Why not ask that?
Sometimes they won't answer.
That's fine. Sometimes they don't tell you the price. Ask twice, keep going. Can't hurt to know. I also will Google the other agents before going in. I'll pull IMS stats if I think it's going to be a tight race. You could call me you know, cheeky if you want, but quite frankly, I've gone up against some agents who would have done a terrible job. And if you're coming up against me and this nice family is going to pay us a similar rate to list their home and I can sell it for 30, 40 grand more than you can, and I look at your website and the only thing you have on it is a listing for a lease that expired 2 months ago, you know, it's nice to know that if the family friend or my cousin or something like that is trying to take advantage of people. I don't mind doing that. So I'll include that in my research as well, who I'm up against.
How much can
Yeah.
How much can you say in these? Because I've had that where I know my stats are much better, and obviously we can't trash other agents, so how do you politely say that without infringing on any
Great
sort of
question.
RICO rules?
Usually I say, have you looked at their website?
But what if they're really great and they have really bad websites?
Then that's fine.
What was that? What'd you say? But if they're really great and they have a really bad. But Corey's gonna help us.
So have you looked at their website? Yeah.
Have you looked at their website? And then I followed up like, you know, last year, 96% of buyers started their search online, 49% of buyers chose the home that they bought online. So somewhere between 49 and 96% of your results are gonna come from the quality of your agent's work online. Do you think that this looks like the kind of representation you need?
Nice. Yeah.
That's the script.
Who's your designer?
Artifact, they're expensive.
I'm just-
Yeah, they're extremely expensive. And it's funny, we don't really pump AdWords through because I don't like buyers. I literally just bought the most expensive websites that I could use in listing presentations. I'm that jerk. Sorry, guys. Yeah, don't hate the player, hate the game. So, who's gonna be there? You guys got all this stuff. Oh, concerns. Concerns. That's always something that's really nice to know coming in the door. What's your biggest concern regarding this move? What's your husband's biggest concern or your wife's biggest concern? Sometimes you only get half the story, right? So at the bottom here I have objections versus conditions. Why do you think I write that? What does that mean?
Being able to identify which one is an objection versus condition.
What's the difference between an objection and condition?
Well, I need 800K. That's like a condition, not an objection.
You're on the right track. I would say that's probably more of an objection because you could work around it. A condition is something that's immovable. So we always talk about objections when we're talking about real estate. An objection is a question. We all tend to get the hair on our backs up when people ask, what's your commission? Why should I hire you? Stuff like that. Because we haven't scripted enough. And if you script, you'll be very comfortable explaining and helping people understand the answers to those questions. So that's an objection. A condition is an immovable problem. The example I always use is a condition. You're speaking to the mom. She says, we're going to sell in 2 years when my daughter finishes high school. Do you think I'm smart enough to script around that and cause her to make her daughter homeless? No. No, you're always going to lose and you're going to alienate yourself because you're being a jerk. So don't fight conditions. Prepare to handle the questions that objections will bring you. Does that make sense? Awesome. Set clear expectations. So what are some expectations you could set? Set price?
Yeah, everybody expects a price.
Yep. I probably wouldn't do this before arriving. I'd probably do this in the presentation. But yeah, absolutely. What else would you want to set in terms of an expectation for the meeting, but before you go in? What would you want them to expect?
How long will it be?
How long the meeting will be? Yeah, absolutely.
Book time?
It's hard to know how long a meeting will be sometimes, so I always tell people 30, 40 minutes plus questions. So if you sit down and they start to gab and they have a lot of questions, you could be there but you've set the stage, it's 30, 40 minutes plus however long you're going to take blithering away at me.
The outcome, are you going to assign at the end of the meeting? Are you going to come back for a second presentation if there's another decision maker?
Yeah.
What's going to happen at the end?
Yep, you can set that expectation. That'd be a great thing to do. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a great thing to talk about a little bit. What else?
What about like the process?
Process. I like it. Keep going with that.
Well, you discuss the listing process as detailed as you can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, from beginning to end.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I like to, as well, in addition to all that, I really like to set a clear expectation for what's going to happen between when I book the appointment and when I attend the appointment. So specifically to me, typically what I'll do is I'll say, I'm really excited to meet you on Thursday at 2 p.m. Here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to send you an email. confirming the time. I'm gonna put a package in the mail, that'll be delivered in the next few business days. And when it arrives, I'm hoping you'll have a few moments that you can take a look and learn a little bit more about me and my team. Then what's gonna happen is I'm gonna call you 24 to 48 hours in advance of the appointment to reconfirm the time, make sure that you're still good with it. Please take that call, because I don't wanna show up if you're not expecting me, and I don't wanna drive out if you're not gonna be there. So please take the call or return my message, just let me know that you're still good, and then I'll be there right at 2 p.m. as we agreed on Thursday. How does that sound? They say yes, that's fine. Why do you think I make myself do all that crap? So I don't waste my time, so I sound prepared. What else did I hear?
You're reassuring the appointment.
I put a lot of things that are gonna remind them,
so-
because not everyone lives by a calendar.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who kind of just wake up and float around every day, it's weird. So making a bunch of little chronological things is one other reason I'm looking for. Why do you think I do all that stuff?
Professionalism, you differentiate yourself.
To show commitment, to differentiate myself. I'm putting all these hoops out in front of myself that I'm gonna jump through. And then as I jump through all those hoops, what am I showing them?
You're already setting a precedence of how you're going to take care of their
Setting-
sale.
Exactly. If I say something's gonna happen, it happens. In fact, there's 5 things I told you were gonna happen before I even came to the appointment to talk about doing business together, and every single one of them happened exactly how I said it was gonna happen. That's what I'm doing. It's not about the confirmation, it's not about any of that stuff. Really, it's a bother for me. I gotta set all these reminders and make sure I call them and leave voicemails and all this stuff. But by the time I show up, I've already proven to them that you can 100% count on me to do what I say I'm gonna do.
What do you send them in the mail?
Yeah, good question.
Here you go. I send them this. You guys pass this around. Take some photos if you want, I don't mind. And that's last year's market report, we're not done this one's yet, but that's what we send. There's a little, I do a handwritten note on letterhead. If you write a handwritten note with Sharpie and photocopy it, it looks fresh. So I usually I wrote one and my assistant photocopies it. If you have systems in place, all this stuff that I'm talking about doing sounds like a lot, but it's actually a lot easier. So I finish up the call, I put them, anytime I have an appointment, I put it in my pipeline tool. We've got like a spreadsheet we present to the whole team has to go through their pipeline twice a week together. So that way I know they're gonna be, I'm gonna be accountable to my team, what happened with that appointment. So they go in my pipeline, I send an email to my assistant, I copy and paste their address from Salesforce, email it to my assistants, they send a pre-list. I set myself, Google has the send later thing now, do you guys use this? Start using it, it's the best.
It's called later?
Send later, it's built into the Gmail app on your phone, or it's right there, it's a little down arrow next to the send button, you hit schedule send. So what I'll do is I'll schedule myself a reminder and pop their phone number in, it's gonna hit the top of my inbox 24 to 48 hours before the appointment. So if I'm in the car, I'm like, oh yeah, right, boom, hit the number, dial, done, right? And then what else do I have to do? Oh, and I send them the email, which is a cut and paste thing, right? Like I have a pre-form written email, I just search the last thing I sent. You guys heard me say that 49 to 96% thing. Those are statistics, so I always just search 96% and it'll be somewhere recently in my email because I don't send the numbers 96. Yeah, I do, but I don't save it, I just copy and paste and read it and move it. I'm not that organized. I am chaotically organized, it works for me. I'm not gonna be, it'll never be perfect.
Saving things like that, it's not even a template, but as a signature. And then all you do is go hi Barb, and then you just change the signature and your template's right there.
Cool, that's a cool idea.
I do that for a lot of stuff, especially if you're doing the same email
You've
to
got
other
some
people.
guests in the room. No, she's writing too, she really is. Here's what's gonna happen next before our appointment. I'm looking forward to discussing your business. So again, expectations, well, we'll discuss how long. I like to say 45 minutes plus questions. You guys say what suits you. Everyone's gonna be there, we'll get started on time, confirm on the phone in the pre-qual. Let's see what else we like to do. Send a pre-list. You guys are looking at my pre-list right now. We used to have a ton more crap in here. We did this fun little box for a while. We had a box full of branded junk, basically, that we'd send people with a bunch of other information. It was really fun, it was a differentiator. We looked at our bills at the end of a year and we realized that we spent 50 grand on these pre-list boxes in 1 year, and we're like, on we go to something that I can print. And the problem if you send too much stuff is they're trying to declutter. So we used to like send branded sunglasses, a branded water bottle, and they're like, Sean, like, take your garbage. Like, I appreciate you coming out, but this is too much. So we stopped doing that. We like this. It's simple. It just shows that we have nice marketing. We're professional. So pre-list. Let's talk about things that go on a pre-list. I'm giving away all my fun. What would you put in there, guys? You're in bold. What did we talk about yesterday? References. Absolutely.
Is that the same as testimonials, basically, or?
Well, no, that would be, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that'd be pretty comparable.
Do you actually put like contact info?
No, I do not do that, and I believe it's a great idea. However, I don't put contact info because I wouldn't want my realtor including my phone number in every packet he sends out. I just think that that's too much of an ask. And I've had people ask me for references. I'm more than happy to give you a reference. Moving forward, people don't often ask. Moving forward, if people actually want to call my references, I'm going to ask them that they actually call. Because most of the time they ask you to do all this stuff, you call these guys, you look like an idiot, the guy never calls them. So I'm happy to do that. We did, most of our reviews are on Facebook, which is nice because you can verify that people are real, blah, 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 blah. However, a lot of people are moving away from Facebook a little bit. It's more of a boomer crowd. Millennials are kind of like it's where they keep track of their mom more so than what they go to for fun. And Facebook's getting creepy, really creepy too. So a lot of people are kind of like, yeah. I took it off my phone because I was tired of it listening to me. And so with all that said, we're transitioning to Google reviews. So we're doing a push on that this year. I'm going to lock my team in a room next week and force them all to email people and get some reviews. So the testimonial thing, I don't print it out because I could just print a bunch of garbage out or hire a virtual assistant to make a bunch of fake letters. I'd rather they actually go to my website and see my reviews on Google. What else would you put in a pre-list package?
Your bio.
Your bio? Absolutely. Your bio, a resume. A resume would be a good thing. Stats.
Like your personal.
Your personal stats, absolutely. Another good thing too, if you're doing stats, we used to do this questions to ask other agents card. So you can do one of those. There's lots of examples you can find online. So do questions to ask other agents, and then on the same sheet, put your answers. Here's what we do. Ask them, and then, yes, I'm full-time. 67 million last year. This is how fast we sell homes. This is why we do so well. Just put it all out. Saves you time answering statistical questions in a meeting. No one cares to do that while they're together. So, what else would you put in a pre-list?
How many days on the market in your area?
So you could put some market information on their area, absolutely. The one thing I personally don't believe in putting sold information, pricing information. I probably wouldn't do days on market personally. I just think they're not expecting me to do that, so if I leave it out, it's not like I missed something. And by including that, I think you put yourself at risk of them disagreeing with a comp and not wanting you in their home. People are stupid. So I don't want to give them a chance to build some story about me in their head because I sent a comp that they didn't think was a good comp, or, oh, well, I should sell for more than this. I can handle those questions in person, but if I'm not there and they build something up in their head, I don't have a chance to help them. So I'd be careful with comps. Some realtors I've met, they'll put a number, like, here's your list price. And I'm like, oh my God, how do you know they don't have 12 dogs that rip the house apart? Like, Totally. What else, guys?
I think I would include like the most current market report.
That's a great thing to include. Yeah. Another great thing, if you guys want, like if you're getting started or looking for things to put in, we have sample forms available. You can download the sample forms. They have, or they call them plain language. So it's all the jargon of the listing agreement, but then underneath there's italics, highlighted print describing what it actually means if you're not a lawyer. So we used to always include those. If you're looking for stuff, there's a million fun little things that you could put in there. What else, guys?
Can you talk about market strategy at this point?
Before I go in?
In the listing part,
Yeah, in our pre-list, there's a little bit about marketing strategy. You'll see it when it comes around. It's not by any means exhaustive. It's pretty You know, yeah, here's a picture of a photo guy. Here's a Matterport brochure.
So what, like listing low to?
No, I don't get into pricing strategy. I pretty much leave pricing right out of it.
But your like sort of marketing style or strategy or what you do to sell houses, do you put that in?
Yep, there's a little bit of that in there. I go on for an eternity about that when we're in person. So that part I go deep in person. And see how we did. References. Oh yeah, your UVP. What's your UVP?
Unique value proposition.
Unique value proposition. Amen. Hallelujah. So, anyone have an example of a UVP? Okay, so what does that mean to say unique value proposition? There's a woman in Gary's group that I know, her name's Rowena Paton. Brilliant woman. She actually wrote a book on unique value proposition because she has a really simple test, because there's lots of agents who have a unique value proposition. My favorite one, you see people put this on bus ads and stuff, it just makes my skin crawl because it's so cringy. They say, available. I'm just like, come on, man. Like, is that literally the only thing you got that you're not busy? Like, so, a unique value proposition, if you think about the name in itself, it kind of sets, to qualify as something that you would call unique and a value proposition, needs to hit a couple markers, right? So, Rowena has this thing she talks about, she calls it the 80% who cares rule, where if you have your unique value proposition and 80% of the other agents in the market could say that they do that, you have to question if that's unique. Does that sound unique if 80% of people can say they do it?
Yeah.
No, it's not unique. And then in terms for it to be valuable, her theory is that you shouldn't be able to say who cares. I'll give you my example for this. As always, there's this lady who's been selling houses. She actually kicks butt too. She does really well, but her thing, she's been doing it for so long, she doesn't need to work, so what she does is she bakes pies for the open house. Yeah, she crushes it. She's huge. But if you had someone come in and they told you about how they were going to bake a pie for your open house, is there a chance that at least you or maybe your spouse, if they're less polite than you, would say, who cares? Like, is that going to actually sell the house? No, never. I like pie. Like, everyone likes pie. It's not as a sales tool. So if you're going to put something out there, challenge yourself. What is it about you that's unique and valuable? What is it about your services? What do you do that 80% of other agents would be challenged to say that they do? It could be statistics. Dr. Sean Lepp, he's out in Durham, he's a KW guy. Yeah. You ask him what his listing presentation's like, he's like, I just tell them, I'm number 6 in Pickering, I'm number 2 in Whitby, and I'm number 1 in Ajax. Like, that's a solid unique value proposition. That's pretty good.
You're doing very well.
If
He's
you're
doing great. Yeah.
If you're geographically farming, then you could, your UVP could be something related to your knowledge of the neighborhood.
Knowledge of the neighborhood. We do the school drive. We're involved in this. Yeah, it doesn't need to be groundbreaking because realtors, like, none of us are that creative. And in fact, you should avoid being creative, especially if you're getting started. Just do something that someone else did that works for a while. With this, everything I'm talking about today, I did not invent any of this. I have R&D'd it all, ripped off, duplicated. You just go to a family reunion, go to training, find ideas you like, photocopy the brochure, put it in the mail, and you're done, right? So, your team.
Can I just ask something?
Yeah, certainly.
So, for instance, I have a bunch of staging furniture, and I have a really good eye for staging, so I just do it for free.
Okay.
I just do it. I know you, like most people are like, don't do it, but that's what
No,
I do.
I include staging all the time.
Sure, but I actually can pretty much do it for free because I have this stuff and Corey, my young
I love
comes
everything.
and helps me and we just do it. But the problem is if I'm up against someone, right, I'm just curious your thoughts on this, and they weren't going to include it, and then that's all I have, potential, I have more than that, but as a value proposition, right? It's not so unique anymore. If they go, well, Mia's gonna throw in the free staging. Oh, okay, well, I'll do that. So do you, is like, for you?
Free staging is gonna be hard to qualify as something that 80% of people wouldn't say they did to
Say,
one listing at the
that's
right
why,
price
so
point.
it's not, that's not a really good one, is it? That's
Yeah.
kind
It could be a combination of things.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that your unique value proposition has to be, I'm the only one who will do this. But try to find something that actually differentiates yourself, because if you go in and you're like, well, I'm the best available for the price, that's not a very strong leg to stand on compared to,
No, I'm just thinking, I like what you said about combining things, so. Yeah, because I have good stats too, I just don't want that just to be, because if I have a month where my stats aren't great, then I don't want that either, right?
yeah, but I mean, you've met other realtors, you know we're all full of crap. Think about like,
Yeah.
how many number ones are there in Toronto, right? Like, there's so many people who are number one according to their mom and their dog. Like, every realtor's got a way of spinning it, so people know, I think, at this
There's a
point.
guy in our neighborhood who's using 2014 IMS stats now to call himself number one.
That's great. Good for him.
It's working.
Yeah, as per MLS, 2014. Put something on your team. So, talk about the people in your group, what they do, who to expect to speak to, why it makes sense to have a team. If you don't have a team, what do you put here?
Office.
Myself.
Office.
You put yourself and
Office.
the brokerage, what else?
Your photographer, your stager,
There you go.
your mortgage guy, your lawyer.
Yes, this is your team.
Yeah.
It takes a village, right? There's a lot of people, there's movers. Absolutely, my kids, my mom. No, but put your team on there. This is an easy ad, put it in. Tough questions for other agents, include your own. What would be some examples of these?
Average sale over ask. Like,
What's your average list to sale price ratio?
How much did
I
you
always
sell
tell people to
last
be
year?
careful with that though, because it doesn't really work like it ought to in Toronto. You know, if you had 97% in Denver in the 80s, like that's pretty good. But if you have, 101% list price in Toronto, you're not doing great. And if you have 140% in Toronto, you're actually probably screwing a lot of people over because you underpriced so poorly.
Yes.
So it's a weird one there. What else would you put though? That's one thing you could absolutely put.
How much do you charge?
I would not
No.
put that. Oh, you mean for them to ask another agent? Still no, because the problem is you're gonna wanna answer it on paper
You
too, and I
want
would
the
never.
questions that are gonna make you look amazing and then other
Yeah.
agents may not.
Yeah.
So it's like, where do you live in the neighborhood, if you live in the neighborhood, right?
How many homes have you sold in the neighborhood?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
days on market.
Average days on market would be a really good
Perfect.
one. I think that would be a good one, absolutely. Yeah.
Average price.
Average price point of your listing. Are you full-time, by the way? They should be asking agents if they're full-time. How many people here got interviewed against someone who has a friend from work? Like, are you a realtor and I didn't notice? Because otherwise you're working with this guy every day and you know that he's not taking calls. Or if he is taking calls during his other job, you know that he doesn't have a very good work ethic. So like, which side of the coin do you want to land on? They're both not very good. So,
That's a good one.
why choose us? Info on the process. My listing pre-list now is mostly about the process, if you look through it. It's generalizations. It's just to set the stage. We're professionals. We know what we're doing. Let's talk about during. Any questions about the before process? Cool, all right, let's keep going. So you guys are,
So let's say the appointment is tomorrow. So
Yeah.
when do they have to send it to that pre-listing?
that's a great question.
When do they have to have it?
Well, night before at the latest.
Today they must have it.
They must have it today. Yeah, so I typically am not booking a lot of appointments for the next day. I almost never, unless it's a weird circumstantial thing, will take an appointment the same day. I know there's a lot of agents, even some coaching, training systems. How soon can we meet? From my experience, I've gone on a lot of these appointments, not for lack of trying. If someone says, yeah, come on over the day, usually they're not very serious. They're not really planning much because they're just kind of like, yeah, sure, I'm bored, I got nothing to do. I guess I could put pants on for half an hour and have you in my house. And you know what, I'm actually gonna try to book an appointment that we both need to work towards. So I usually am booking, anywhere from 3 to 5 days out. And I'll courier it. So, if it's not in your area too, guys, like we use AB Courier, they're cheap, I think it's $12.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, oh, I'll save on gas, but then you get caught in traffic, you're in the car for 3 hours, you could be out doing something for your business or hanging out with your family, so think hard before you assume you're gonna do a bunch of legwork yourself.
AP courier?
AB.
Yeah, if it's in Toronto, the other thing that's good is you can, if it's a short window that you need to drop it off, you can't pop it in the mail, it's a good chance for you to go and preview every other house that's for sale, that's comparable.
That's a great idea.
At the same time, and then just like throw in the mailbox.
I cold called this lady the other day, Mary Lou, lives around the corner from me in like a 3,000 square foot house alone. Anyways, she was like, yeah, my husband died, I'm downsizing, blah, 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 I'm interviewing. Anyways, I booked the appointment on the cold call, I'm really stoked, I'm gonna meet her later this month. I delivered that one personally, she lives a kilometer from me. I knocked on her door, she ended up being home, we hung out for half an hour, it was great. So little things like that can't hurt. But just careful how much, you always think about your hourly rate, you know what I mean? Sometimes to save 15 bucks, you spend 2 hours in the car. That's a really bad hourly rate. If you counted gas, you're making less than $5 an hour. You should have sent a courier, you know what I mean? Okay, so during the appointment, we're gonna shut up. That's the first thing you should do, is be quiet. People love to listen to themselves talk. The pre-list was all about us. We talked about this yesterday in Bold. It's all about me. We're setting the stage. You've got a professional coming to your home. During the appointment, who's that about? It's all about them, okay? So my flow during the appointment is approximately like this. I'll arrive at the home exactly on time, knock on the door. Hi, it's Sean, we have an appointment at this time. May I come in? Wonderful. I come in. Now, every single agent that they're going to interview is going to ask to tour the house so that they know what they're talking about during the presentation. I want to be unlike every other agent, so I ask if we could sit down. Find somewhere comfy, sit down, we talk for about 5 minutes. This is where I'm building rapport. I'm trying to get an understanding of their motivation on a high level, so I'm going deep. We were talking about this in Bold yesterday. Your goal isn't to just find out what they're doing mechanically. Your goal is to understand what it will do for them. So if they say, I need to move up north, why? What's that going to do for you? Oh, well, we want to have more space. What does that mean to you? What's important about that to you? If you ask the question, why, people tend to get defensive. If you think about the question, well, why are you doing that?
Yeah, it's not the person, why are you moving?
Yeah. What about that is important to you, though? It's very similar to why, but it makes them want to talk. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to go through their entire motivation. We're going to go 2 or 3 layers deep on every single thing. And then we're going to ask them about concerns, what they're willing to do with the home. Don't assume anything. They might not want to even move their stuff out of the way until it's sold. So we're going to go through all their concerns, we're going to go through their motivation, we're going to talk about timelines, and then once I have a really clear idea of all the different things that they want to do and what's important to them, I try to summarize it and paraphrase. So I'll sit there and I'll tie them into an agreement by basically saying something to the effect of, okay, so if I understand it right, if we were able to figure out a way that you could sell your home for $800,000 or more, have the main floor cleaned up and help you figure out who can come and carry the piano out for you, stage the main area, list in early March while you're on vacation, so you don't have people coming through here while the dogs are home, sell it in under 2 weeks, and help you find a home in Aurora that you could move into, the whole while ensuring that this wasn't too stressful and you guys didn't outdo yourself in terms of work because you're tired. Would you guys be ready to get started if we were able to find a way to do that? And they're either going to say 1 or 2 things. They're going to say, yep, that sounds great, or they're going to throw an objection at you. And if they throw an objection at you, all I do is I add it in. Perfect. So again, if we were to do all the things I just said, I can't remember what they all were, and make sure that blank doesn't happen, would you be ready to get started moving towards that goal? Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Okay, super. I'm ready to see the house. So I have a break in my meeting. We go tour the house. They might just kind of say, yeah, go look. Or you'll get the guy that wants to tell you every single piece of electric tape he's wrapped around something in the house for the past 40 years. If they start doing that stuff, I say, don't worry. I'm gonna ask you every question you could ever imagine a realtor asking you when we get back upstairs to that table. For now, we're just looking. I'll get all the dates and stuff when I have my book. I've left my book, by the way, on the kitchen table. I usually start on the couch, because I like that for rapport. It's warm, they're comfortable there, we're cozy, we're talking, we're building connection. And then when we get up to tour the home, I ask them if I can just drop my thing on the table, and then we know we're coming back there. Does that make sense? Tables where business happens. So we tour the house. I don't get into any of the dates or the details because I don't have a pen. I'm not going to remember this stuff anyways. Pardon?
They go with you.
They go with me. Yeah, I don't do that. I find that
Oh,
weird.
yeah.
The whole I want to look at it like a buyer. I know how buyers are going to look.
Yeah.
I'm not that pressed for time. It's a $25,000 appointment. You know, like I don't mind if you're with me. I might have questions. You know.
Yeah.
And we get back to the table. And then I do my marketing presentation. That takes about 20 minutes. I'm going to do it for you guys in a sec. And then from there, I ask them if they have any questions about the process. And then I have a listing detail sheet that I fill out. I think I have one. I'll pass it around. Basically, we just took all the things, including the MLS sheet, and I fill it in, the entire thing. Takes forever. Why do you think I do that?
More time?
It's not to take their time. I would love to leave at this point. I'm assuming the sale, I'm building more rapport, I'm showing that I'm a details person. That's a big part of what I'm doing. What else am I doing physically with myself at that moment? I'm filling in paperwork, aren't I?
Paperwork to make it the sign.
I'm filling in paperwork. We're in paperwork mode now. They kind of go like, oh, shoot, we're in paperwork mode. Okay.
They're investing their time in you.
They're investing their time. They want to. What else do you think? I was talking about me being separate from all the other agents that come through because I like to do things in my own order. Do you think every other agent did this? No? You would have had them signed already? All right,
We have the paperwork out there. They're ready to sign.
You got to get it anyways, though. Now, Rico, you need this signed for every listing. It's a pain in the butt. We should be doing this.
Yeah.
So why not show them? After all that, am I not the most professional? From there, we fill in a calendar with dates. So at the back, I think it should be in there. There's a part where I fill in, potential stage dates, potential media days, MLS, open house, is there a lockbox? It's got all that stuff built in. I'm going through all the questions, slowly making a crescendo towards the inevitable. They know that what's going to happen at the end of this is I'm going to ask them to sign a contract. So we go through all that stuff. And then after that, I ask them what price they want to list it for. And this is usually where they realize that they either need to throw all their objections at me at once, or they're going to sign. And it's okay if they have objections. So, with objections, this is usually where you're going to hit them. Is when you start filling in the listing documents. So I'm putting the price in, I'm putting the MLS dates we just talked about. Because usually, well, we're not signing now, we need to think about this, what's your commission, what about this? And at the end of our time today, if you guys want, I'm going to save about 10 minutes, we'll be able to hammer through some objections. But just in general, if you have objection handlers prepared, you know how to get through this stuff. My one major piece of advice is that you don't handle objections one at a time. So they'll be like, what's your commission? You'd be tempted to say 5%. What I like to do is they say, what's your commission? I go, okay, well that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. It's probably something we should talk about. So if we talk about commission, I just want to make sure if there's anything else that you want to make sure we talk about before we can get through this contract. That way we're not bouncing back and forth because I want to give you my undivided attention when I'm answering questions specific to the contract. They go, okay, well, let me think. So and then what I'll do, lawyer commission. I go, so if we're able to cover this, reach a win-win agreement, and we both feel comfortable, and you know that you're going to net the most money, other than commission, is there anything else that would stop us from getting started? Oh, well, I want some time to think. Oh, super, okay. Think. That's awesome. So if we were to talk about commission, and you guys felt comfortable, you know that we had a good thing arranged there, and we also had a little bit of time, you guys could talk, feel comfortable. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we talk about before you're comfortable getting started moving forward? What else? They're going to say something. Okay. Well, they would say something most likely, and I'd make a list. And the goal is that I just exhaust all of their problems so that by the time we finish this, they know two things. One, all their concerns are on this list. And two, once I go through all their concerns on this list, we're going to talk about getting the paperwork signed. And the reason I do this is because you can go down this rabbit hole and you just get stuck on like their hamster loop of asking questions without an end in sight, and there's no point in talking about all this stuff if they're not ready to get started.
My question is, sorry, is
Yeah, no, please.
at the beginning, you've agreed or you've told them that you're gonna be 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Are we beyond that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah. If they're running out of time, they'll tell you. I say 45 minutes plus questions.
Yeah.
I could absolutely, if they want me to go through their house, sit down, and do my presentation and get them to this point.
Okay.
Now, I mentioned as well, I'll do a lot of two-step appointments. So this isn't every single time. This is a signing appointment. And if I was coming back to sign an appointment, I probably already viewed the home.
Yeah.
So I've already done the rapport thing. If it's a two-step appointment, the rapport thing happens at the very first appointment, right at the gate, first thing. So that's already out of the way. If I'm coming back, I'm jumping right into marketing. We're filling in paperwork, and then we get to this stuff. So really, if they're on point and they don't stop me every 2 seconds with some weird thing, this would be about 45 minutes, and then we probably spill a little over, but it's not 2 hours unless they cause it to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good, that's good.
Great. Any other questions about that whole thing? Because after this, we're just signing paperwork. You guys know how to do that.
Let's hope.
Cool. Without further ado, I'm going to do my listing presentation, the marketing segment for you guys. Probably 15 minutes or so. We purposely want it to be long. Like I kind of want your eyes to roll back in your head because I'm just yammering on about marketing, because that's why you pay us so much, is to market your home. So I want them to know that it's exhaustive. So I don't mind that it takes a little while. The presentation I use, I did not create. This is not mine, it's Ben Kinney's. So this is just a bunch of slides I downloaded at Family Reunion. I took them home and I edited them. You guys can find them too, and you can edit them to suit your listing systems and models. I think, in my opinion, he's got the best listing presentation I've heard. I didn't feel like trying to do better, so I just used his. It works great. It's really simple. If you look at the format I use, it's broken into 3 sections. The sections are price, presentation, and marketing, which is logical because those are kind of the 3 main things that we got to talk about. And I have some slides. As you can see, I'm not very good at keeping up with myself on slides. So I don't use slides anymore because I don't like playing with my iPad, but I'm going to show you the slides I had so that you might have something that you could choose to try to make for yourself that's similar. Come on. Oh yeah, it'll be in here. This is what we made. Slides or paperwork can be a great prop. I actually, originally when I first started doing the Ben Kinney presentation, I loved having this because it would remind me where I am. So if you're learning a new presentation, this is probably more for you than it is for them, right? So that could be something. And so I'll sit down, I'll just say, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a few minutes now and just describe to you the marketing plan and all of the things that would go into us ensuring that your home sells for the most that it could sell for in the least amount of time. Is it okay if I take a few moments to do that right now? Now, one other thing about this. Occasionally, you'll get these commission heads who will want to ask you your commission before you talk about this. I will never discuss commission until they've listened to me yammer on about marketing, because it's unfair to put a price on something they don't know what they're paying for. And I will just simply tell them that. You know, they sit down and say, well, what's your commission? I totally appreciate that that's important to you. And usually when people say that they want to talk about commission, it's because they want to ensure that they net the highest dollar from their home. You know, like when you're done selling your home, Mr. Seller, You get in the moving truck, you close the door, your lawyer just gave you that check, and that check represents everything that's left after me and you have sold your home. If me and you could work together to make the number on that check as big as possible, is that what you're actually asking about? Yes. Okay, super. So then what I'd like to do before we talk about commission is I'd like to take a few moments to go through all the different things that I'm gonna do so you know what you're paying for. Does that make sense to you? Yes. Great. If they say no and they just wanna know what the commission is, maybe you're not the right agent for them. And if they hammer me, I will tell them that I am not your cheapest option. You can find much, much cheapers. I'm your best option if you want to get the most money out of a transaction. I always know how to do that. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not your cheapest option. If cheap's what's important, you should probably go with Purple Bricks.
And are you saying this before we start presenting?
Only if they hammer me on commission before I start.
Okay.
Only if they're hammering me on commission, I try to, I make them feel uncomfortable, like I'm saying no to them.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. And I specifically tell them to go with Purple Bricks. Like if all you care about is cheap, why am I even here? Because if all you want is the cheapest agent, then there's no value in that person. He's gonna not spend any money marketing your property, he's gonna have no skill, he's gonna have no negotiation expertise for sure, because he's proving that he takes his pants off before he comes in the door kind of thing with his low rate. So if you really wanna hire a professional, why don't you either hire me or go to Purple Bricks? I think it's $200. They just shut themselves down in the United States because they weren't able to even make ends meet. If that's what you want, they are for sure cheap. So, if you want good, yeah, it's not going good. They also just had all their, they told all their employees they get a free
All
day
the
off
reviews, false
if they
reviews.
write fake reviews. Yeah.
Well, this is gonna have an impact on social media with people asking for reviews as well, because anybody can write a review.
Anyone can write, hey, you know what? I will say that I don't think there's something bad with having someone write a review for you who isn't a previous client. You can write a review for a restaurant you haven't eaten at yet, but just don't ask people to write it from a perspective that's unreal. You could say, hey, I'd love if you wrote me a review, person I just gave a presentation to. That's fine. You haven't used every service you have. But don't say, oh, I used him and they're the best and my experience was blah, 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 because that's false.
It's false.
Yeah, it's false. Don't write lies. Anyone can write a review. Anyhow, so Mr. Seller, from my team's experience, we found that there's 3 things that are going to determine if a home will sell in today's market.
Quick question. Are
Yes.
you okay with me recording this? Or no?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go for it.
It's already being recorded,
Oh,
Juan.
that's right.
You can take it, I don't mind if you want to do audio or something like that,
Okay.
go for it. The 3 things that are going to determine if your home's going to sell or not, Mr. Seller, is price, presentation, and marketing. And what I'm going to do, if it's okay with you, is I'd like to spend a little bit of time addressing each of these 3 things so you have a full understanding not only of what it takes to get the job done, but specifically what I would do with your home. So price is the first one. And price, while it's one of the 3, is by far the most important, Mr. Seller. If you think about it, I always like to compare selling a home to selling something like a phone, like an iPhone specifically, or an Android. Because if you told someone a decade ago that we'd all be walking around with $1,000 gizmos in our pocket, they would have thought you were insane. Yet here we all are, and I would wager that every single person in this room has a $1,000 phone in their pocket, which seems crazy, but they've hit that ratio where the amount of value we get out of these incredible little devices is absolutely worth the ridiculous amount that we pay for them. And we need to do the same thing with your home, Mr. Seller. We need to figure out what the absolute most we can ask for would be that people would still understand the price and want to buy it. If we go beyond that, it's crickets. I can tell you from experience after experience, and we always have people ask us, when they're overpriced, they might say, oh, well, why doesn't someone just lowball me? I thought I'd at least get an offer. It doesn't work that way because buyers have choice and they'll just move on. So price is by far the most important thing that we could do. If we dramatically overprice your listing, there's no amount of presentation or marketing work that I could do that will fool people because people are savvy, they're smart. So we're going to spend a little bit of time here, but I really need you to understand that this is of huge importance to whether or not you're successful at all in selling your home. And price is an interesting one, because I actually don't set the price for your home. And interestingly enough, you don't set the price either. Really, the way that price will be determined is by buyers and the marketplace in general viewing your home, comparing it against others, and feeling comfortable with it. Now, the way that we price homes is really simple. We're going to do something called a direct comparison approach. It's an appraisal technique. You might hear other realtors say CMA, that's the same thing. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to look at other homes that are similar to yours, 3-bedroom bungalows in this area and sold in the last 6 months, and we're going to draw comparisons. We're going to look for a range, and once we get the range, you and I work together to decide how to attack it. Once we know the range of value for your property, we have 3 options. We can accept current market. We can just sell and say, this makes sense, I'll take it, I'm done. You could wait for a market cycle. So if you're not happy with today's prices, you could wait 2, 3, maybe 5 years, depending on the gap you need to close, and wait for things to come together in that way. Or we could work together to make upgrades to your home. So if you're not going to get what you want right now, and perhaps there were some smart investments that you could make, we could talk about that as well, and we'd be able to coach you through that. The cool thing is, once we know the range for your price, and we are on the market, we're going to know really quickly if we hit the mark. So if we did it right, in the first 2 weeks we should see lots of showings, and we should see some offers on paper. Verbal offers are as good as the paper they aren't written on, they're useless. So when I say this, I mean real offers from actual buyers. It does not mean that you need to accept those offers, but we want to see them coming in. It's to show that we're on the right track. Now, if during those same 2 first weeks, we have lots of showings, but we don't get any offers on your property, from my experience, that's going to mean that you're between 3 and 5% off. This one's a tricky one, because there's no standard reaction. If you're between 3 and 5% off, you can just leave it at your current pricing and expect the sale to take a little longer than maybe you'd hoped for, or you can make a price adjustment and it'll sell quickly. Either option works, and we'll give you advice on that point. Now, if we get through those first 2 weeks and we only have a few showings, usually what that means is that we're between 5 and 10% off. And in that situation, we always recommend doing a price reduction. You don't have to come all the way down right away, 10%, but you're going to want to make at least a 4 to 6% price adjustment to get you in the pocket. Because again, if we're not in the zone, buyers are just going to go to other product. We're going to be the ones who sit on the market, while other homes that are actually in the market are turning over. Does that sound fair? Now, sometimes we have a property that's real tricky to price. We're unsure where to start, and maybe we started a little too high. And from time to time, we see properties that don't get a showing in the first 2 weeks. Mr. Seller, if this happens, your property is gravely overpriced. We're probably 10 to 15% off. And in this situation, you have to make a price reduction, or you're probably not going to have the home sell this time around unless you wait several years. What I do want to tell you is that after we've been on the market for 2 weeks, I'm going to promise to you right now that at that point, if we're not on track, I'm going to come back, we're going to sit back down, we're going to look at all the statistics, all the homes that did sell during the period where we didn't. We're going to look at the numbers again fresh, we're going to figure it out together, and we're going to put you on track to get the homes sold. I don't mind coming back out to do that. Does that sound okay with you? What did I just do?
You let him choose the price.
No, I just booked my price reduction meeting in advance. Yeah. So with pricing, Mr. Seller, there's 3 traditional routes that people have used. We have the old school traditional pricing where people would take a look at the range of value, you know, say it's a 50,000, 850 to 900, and they price it right at the top. You know, maybe 5 or 10 grand over. And in that situation, usually traditional people would expect to have offers come in over 2 to 4 weeks, and they'd expect to negotiate a little bit. And we also do a lot of this thing called bidding wars in Toronto. You're bidding wars, multiple offers. So this is a great technique that can work really well for certain situations to get top dollar and isolate the listing period to a shorter amount of time. A bidding war, in essence, what we're going to do is we're going to take the low price on your home, and then we're going to knock an additional $50,000 to $100,000 off. What we're trying to do is set an expectation that this property is underpriced. We want people to look at the price, say, that's ridiculous, but I still want to go look. When they get here, the conversation with their agent should be, how far over asking do you think we need to go? Is 100 grand enough? If you don't go far enough, it flops. The other thing for a bidding war is it can work really well. It can be, typically, I think most of the crazy records that get set are set in bidding wars. Because people lose track of reality and they can get emotional and might spend more than they ought to. But they can be unpredictable. So sometimes you don't get what you want, you're stuck repricing your property a weekend. So it's a bit of a gambler's game. The one thing, in order for this to work, there's two things. One, we need the right market conditions. So there can't be a ton of inventory on the market when we choose to do this. And the second thing is we need a property that has generic appeal. So the way bidding wars work, the price that you get is going to be higher depending on the number of offers, because that's all that buyers have to gauge how high they need to go. So because of that, bidding wars don't work with properties that do not have generic appeal. You're selling something on a street where half of it's warehousing, don't do it. If you're in a neighborhood where everything's 3 and 4 bedrooms and you have 1 plus 1, it's not going to work. So we really want to be cognizant of what we're selling and where we're at to be sure that the market's going to react the way we want it to. So, Mr. Seller, after we've priced your home accurately and we have a good strategy for how we're going to attack things, the next thing that we need to do is make sure that the home is presented correctly. And presentation is an interesting thing because it used to just be that we would come in and we'd, maybe help you bake some fake cookies in the oven before the open house, or we might say change the bulbs a little brighter in the lighting outlets. But nowadays, Mr. Seller, this is one of the huge areas that realtors focus, and specifically this is one of the areas where a good realtor and somebody who's experienced in this can actually change the value of your home. And this is why we're still around, basically. Because a lot of the stuff you could just do with a Google search, but the experience it takes to do this right and knock it out of the park is the difference between you selling sometimes for as much as 16% more. So, when we talk about presentation, it's now a two-sided coin. So what we do is we start before the listing by helping you with the interior design and presentation of the property. We're going to talk about some generalities today while we walk through. So, we talked about how the couch is kind of pushed out in front of that doorway and makes it a little tight. We talked about opening the drapes, or maybe even just taking the drapes down to let the light in. If you think about it in a nutshell, what we really want to do is we want to have everything feel light and bright and open. You guys are great, you got cute kids, you got this goofy dog, but we want to take all those pictures off the wall. We want to give buyers the opportunity to see themselves, see their family living here. For them to do that, it can't be about you. We need to make this house feel open and ready for them. The good news is, I don't leave this up to any kind of chance. I'm a colorblind straight guy, so I don't choose the colors on my listings. We have professionals every step of the way who are involved in this whole thing, and with your permission, what we would do next is we would schedule a time for my designer to come through. She's going to work with you guys hand in hand, and when it comes to installing furniture, that's all covered out of my cost. So there's no additional cost to you. The next thing with presentation is once we have it looking great inside, we need to go online. And again, this is an area that a lot of agents don't really understand how to make sure that you have everything a buyer might possibly need. So when we talk about online presentation, we need to remember that the majority of people who are shopping in your price range have at least one job, probably 2 jobs per member of the household, to be able to afford $900,000 for a starter home. It's really expensive, and it's hard for people to get started in our market. So we need to give them a reason to come out and look at your home. And if you think about the average buyer, I can tell you from experience that the average buyer is shopping in a wide enough area and price range that there's probably between 10 and 15 new properties that come up on their list every week that they could consider going to see. I can also tell you that an average buyer usually has one night or weekend slot that they dedicate to their agent. So let's say, Thursday nights we usually go out and look at properties. On Thursday nights, Mr. Seller, do you think that they have time to see 15 properties? No, they don't. The average number of homes that a buyer will tour once they're established in their search is between 3 and 5. So if you think about what we need to do online, as your agent, my job is to make sure that your buyers, when they look at your property and they compare you with the 14 other new homes that came out that one week and all the other homes they've seen before, you're one of the 14 that gets cut down to the 5. Does that make sense? So how do we do that? First of all, we're gonna have absolutely the highest quality photos that we possibly could have. We're gonna Photoshop and touch up every single photo. And no, I cannot remove holes in the floor. I can't fill holes in the walls. I can't repaint your house. I'm talking about color correction, color balance. I can make the sky blue if it's rainy and when we take photos. So I can't make your house what it isn't. What I can do is I can punch up the brightness and make it feel more inviting. I then am going to take the time to do a 3-dimensional tour. We actually we're the first team in Canada to buy a tool called Matterport, which actually creates an immersive 3-dimensional experience of your home where people feel like they're walking through Google Street View, but it's in the inside of your house. We're going to do a massive write-up. We're going to list all the schools. We're going to list all the local amenities on a map, things like cafes and local stores and restaurants, anything that would be able to help someone get an idea of what it'd be like to live here. Here's the thing. In marketing, one of the things that we know is that logic makes you think, but emotion makes you act. And Mr. Seller, we need to be prepared to help both sides of the brain justify this decision. So with all that stuff I was just describing, we're giving them all the logical reasons that they should buy your home. We're justifying your price. We're helping them understand the community. We're listing the upgrades. We're talking about what a great street it is. Where we get them on the emotion is in the write-up and it's in the video. I always watch my wife, Mr. Seller, because I'm in real estate. I've been doing this for a dozen years. I'm a top agent, blah, blah, blah. I've seen zillions of homes. And when I look at homes on MLS, I go like this. Next, 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 next. I go through the photos at that speed, and after looking at that speed, I could tell you that this home probably needed new flooring, but it had a new kitchen, and the washrooms looked like they were done, and there's not a lot of deferred maintenance, and the basement is finished. I could put it within a $25,000 range going at that speed, just because I've been doing this so long. But my wife, when I watch her looking on MLS, she Googles the street and looks on Street View. She goes on the video and watches the whole video. It's insane. I feel like I'm losing my mind just watching her do it, but she loves it. They have some cute song. She goes, oh, you know, sweetie, it's so cute. I don't get it, but guess who's gonna buy the house? Not me. I'm gonna check that the money makes sense. Can I renovate this and get money back when I refinance? That's my question as a realtor. My wife, she's the one who's gonna choose the street she wants to live on. So we need to make sure that whether we're dealing with someone like me or someone like my wife, we're appealing to both sides and we're giving them logical reasons to understand why to buy our house and we're giving them an emotional hook to get them on board. Does that make sense? Absolutely. Now, there's another side to this, Mr. Seller. We gave them a little bit up front, we got them excited, they came to the house, what are we gonna send them home with? So they both see those 5 properties, one of them sold conditionally, they only got into 4. This is pretty typical. So they see 4 homes. Out of those 4, if they're lucky, they might have 2 homes that actually have something at the property for them to take home. Don't worry, obviously, we are going to be one of those 2 homes. We're going to have a 4-page brochure, full color, it's beautiful, obviously, you can look if you want, but trust me, I'm not shooting for mediocre, as you might have guessed. We're going to have a map with local schools, we're going to have a second map with details about the community, all that stuff I told you about on the website, we're redoing here. We're going to have printed floor plans. We're going to have, if there's a home inspection, we'll do the home inspection. And what I want to do is send them home with a wad of paper. When they get home, they've seen 4 properties. It's all a blur. And they get home too, they probably got to put the kids to bed, they got things going wrong, and emails from work, they don't think about it for a day. They come back, your home is going to be one of the 2 only brochures they got. And when they go back online, they can tour the house again, they can send it to the bank of mom and dad to underwrite it. Everything's prepared and ready, and we just make it easy for them to want to choose your house. Do you see how this might be important in ensuring that your home is the one that a buyer remembers?
That's great.
All right, now that your eyes are rolling back in your head, I'm going to start getting on to the third part of the presentation. And I really do actually take this long because if you rush through this stuff and someone else like me takes their time, they're probably not going to feel like you're doing as much, even if you are. So, you're here, take their time. Tell them all the little things you're going to do. It's worth the investment, in my opinion. And remember, guys, we shoot for very thorough in our listing presentations. Remember that you're competing against people like me. If you're not doing all this stuff, there's someone like me who's going to be doing all this stuff. So if you want to be competing on the highest level and you want to be winning listings, this is the bar to entry that you're up against. I guarantee there's people in this neighborhood doing this. You guys are in a high price point hood, so expect tough competition. Mr. Seller, once we price the home right, once we have the presentation absolutely knocked out of the park, the last thing that we need to do is market your home in an effective manner. Now, hilariously, if you talk to a few other people who are pitching you on listing your home, they're going to put all the stuff I just talked about under their marketing plan. Putting in a website, having brochures, that's what they call marketing. If you think about it, presentation should be the things that we do to show people your home, and marketing should be the things that we do to get people to look at that stuff. Most realtors don't do any of the stuff that I'm putting in here, and a lot of them might do one or two things, but they don't have a systemized approach in place that ensures that every single thing gets done on every single home. And that's what we've done. We've systemized it. So, when it comes to marketing, I just want to share that this is not an experimental plan. I didn't write this on the back of a napkin and decide I'd start telling people that I did it. We've used this to sell hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes. I do about 90% of my business is listings. It's been that way for years. We use this plan on homes anywhere up to $3-4 million. You are not our guinea pig. We're doing this because it works, and it works really, really, really well. And the way that we got here is we started by deciding that we didn't want to just wing it, and we wanted a resource that would tell us where people were finding properties. And we actually discovered that the National Association of Realtors every single year produces a report on where buyers find the home that they purchased. So, for example, if Billy Buyer buys 123 Main Street, where was the first place that Billy Buyer saw 123 Main Street? And they put it into this beautiful pie chart, and what we do is we spend our money on the things that are most likely to cause a buyer to find your home. I'm not like other agents who want to put flyers in your neighborhood with my face all over them to sell my listing services. I don't even spend money on flyers because, as you'll see in a moment, less than 1% of homes sell because of flyers. So, as we begin to learn from the annual report generated by the National Association of Realtors, the first thing it tells us is that agents are still hugely important. In fact, last year, 31% of transactions could be traced back to an agent. So the agent called Billy Buyer. He said, Billy Buyer, you should go look at 123 Main Street. Billy Buyer goes and he buys that house. So this tells us that agents are really important. Thankfully, agents are really simple folks. So we have a really simple plan for ensuring that agents are going to work with us on your listing. First of all, we ensure that they have all of our online flyers and virtual tours. So they can take our stuff, send it out to their buyers, and look like they got some business going on. I don't mind. I've got lots going on myself, and I would more than happily help them with anything they could possibly need to promote your property to their own database. Additionally, agents don't want to tour every home that comes on the market anymore. So what we do is we ensure that they have access to all the virtual tours. So if they have a question from a buyer, is it a double garage? Is there room for this? Is there a sump pump? They can just go online and find this stuff, and they look smart.
Sorry, I just want to clarify that stat. So 31% of the same, so that stat is saying that you are.
If you have all the homes that sold,
yeah,
what percentage of those homes sold because a buyer found it through their agent?
Okay.
So, and specifically, these stats are where buyers first saw the home they purchased.
Okay, got it.
Where they first saw it. So, I mean, they probably had their agent tell about it, then he sent the MLS. But the first source was the agent. That's what these stats are. These are a year old. They post these stats every single year at Family Reunion. It's happening next month. So if you want these stats, go into your MyKW, log on to your account, and in the drop-down, about 2 weeks after Family Reunion, they'll have a vision speech link. You can watch Gary give the vision speech. That's where they put these stats out. And they have all the slides from the vision speech. That's where you find these stats. Okay? Mr. Seller, we also want to make sure that all the agents who view your home know how to book an appointment, know how to present an offer, know how to reach me if they have questions. So we want to ensure that we give them very clear instructions on how to do all that stuff. That's a big part of what we do. Finally, Mr. Seller, we, because of our reputation in this business, are often asked to come in and fix things when another agent wasn't able to get a home sold. So we do a lot of being the second guy. We get a call, hey, it didn't work, we need you guys to come in and fix this up. And when we ask people what their biggest frustration was with the last agent, it's usually not that they didn't get the home sold, it's usually a lack of communication. So you might get an email saying, hey, you know, they came to look, but they're not gonna offer. Well, what the heck does that actually do for us? It does nothing. So what we like to do is we like to go a little deeper. If they're not gonna buy the home, why not? Is there another home that they like better that they were thinking of offering on? Is there something about the home that we could change that would make them wanna write a deal with us? And finally, if they're gonna offer on another home instead of ours, what home's that? And then, with your permission, Mr. Seller, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna bring all this information straight back to you. I don't edit out any of it, the good, bad, and especially the ugly. And we're gonna sit down together and we're gonna figure out what we gotta do to get this place sold. Does that sound fair to you? Great. Now, the next thing that the Association of Realtors said was that the internet's really important. LOL, right? Like, probably could have guessed that. But 49% of homes last year sold because the buyer first found them online. And that's a big number. So the cool thing is the internet's a huge place, but marketing on it's really simple. All you gotta do is make sure that your home shows up in every single place a buyer could possibly look. That was supposed to be funny. Anyways, the point is, there's a lot of places that buyers might look, and what we have is enough experience and checklists that we can make sure that your house is in all the right places. So first thing that we wanna do is we wanna make sure that your home aggregates right into all the portals. So we have technology that allows us to ensure that when we list your home, it makes it to all the different third-party companies that are aggregating MLS information. Think about Zillow, Bungle, House Sigma. There's a billion of these guys who basically take MLS information, make it look prettier than the local MLS was able to, and sell it to people. So we're gonna make sure that you land on all those. We're also gonna make sure that we get on all the brokerage portals. These guys are spending millions every year marketing their brands. So this would be things like Remax.com, Century21.com, KellerWilliams.com. We want to make sure, and no matter what website from these guys that these guys are looking on, we're there, we look good, all of our photos are loaded right, the information's current. Finally, Mr. Seller, in Canada alone, we have 120,000 realtors. Isn't that insane? 120,000 realtors spread all out. And if you think about it, like we're in this process here, we're all talking about things. It makes sense that we're somewhat familiar. But if you think about an average seller, maybe he lives in a rural town or something, he's not a computer guy, he might not know where to find you. And a lot of people have job transfers. Imagine that this person's selling his house in northern BC. His only real estate resource online might be his individual agent's webpage, StuSellsNorthBC.com or whatever, right? What we need to do is we need to make sure that your listing shows up on every one of those 120,000 agents' websites so that if this guy's talking, he knows about us. Okay.
How does that work?
IDX. It's just naturally done. I just talk about it like it's something I invented for a little while. If someone was, if someone's a web developer, I'm going to cut that back. Mr. Seller, the next thing we want to address is your social media presence. Now, social media is something that a lot of agents put an immeasurable amount of energy into. But I always kind of chuckle because they're not really using it in a way that serves them or their clients. I'm sure if you know a few realtors, they probably post videos of themselves yammering on about garbage outside some house or taking pictures of their open house signs this weekend. None of that really serves your listing. And moreover, what we've found is that most agents don't have a systemized approach to ensuring that, again, your home is in all the places that a buyer might look. Yet these are incredibly powerful tools, Mr. Seller. Have you heard recently about all the information that companies like Facebook and Google are collecting on you? They're listening to us right now, by the way, Mr. Seller. They know you're selling your house, and they're on your phone right now listening to you. It's really creepy. But since they're doing it anyways, don't hate the player, hate the game. What we want to do is use this to our advantage. And specifically the way that we use this is we target people who would be considering a move who aren't yet on MLS that fit the demographic we believe is most likely to purchase your home. that sounds really complicated, but basically what I'm saying we're gonna do is we're gonna design an algorithm for our advertisements that ensures, since we're here in Midtown, what we wanna do, for example, would be to target someone who probably already owns property, because your price point will eliminate first-time buyers. So we look at someone who lives in condo land south of here. We look at married people, because they're not gonna trade up to a semi like yours until they were considering kids. We're gonna target them in a bracket, like a geographic area and a price point area. And we're gonna target them based on the things that they like and they search. So mortgages, real estate investing, house for sale, stuff like that. All of this stuff is in the profile already, and if we can design this right, what we find is that we're able to actually get people before they hit the MLS. If they go to MLS, they see all the options. What we want to do is we want to put the one main option in front of them, your house, and we put it in front of them before they get there. Does that sound good to you? Great. Now, a lot of people think that you would never shop on Kijiji unless you had a credit score of 2 or something like that. But the truth is, these are some of the most highly trafficked websites on the internet, Mr. Seller. And we sold a ton of houses on here. The neat thing about these websites is you think, well, who's actually going to be on there? And the truth is, the people that we're looking for on here are people who aren't savvy to Canadian real estate. If you think about it, if you came over here from Israel or something like that, I'm just pulling something out of the hat, chances are you might not know to go to realtor.ca. But everyone knows about Kijiji. One of the biggest websites on the planet, and when people get here that are new to the country and new to our customs, it's a place that they might go to search for this. So the approach is very simple when you're approaching classifieds. We just top post. So one of our commitments to our sellers is that we ensure that their property gets relisted on Kijiji at a minimum of 2 to 3 times every single week for the duration of the listing. Just when catch any of those fish who are out there looking, okay? When I put all this together, that would be our plan on how we would approach your home specific to online marketing. Can I just ask really quick, because this is a big topic and lots of people have lots of different ideas how it works. Is there anything I might have missed that another agent might have mentioned that I should be sure that we cover before I move on?
The Chinese.
Yeah, Chinese buyers. They don't exist anymore. That's a 2017 thing. You gotta get up to date. I'm just joking.
They all died.
Yeah, no, but the Chinese thing, you know what I usually say? I say blah, 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 WeChat, luxury portal, blah, blah, blah. Of course we're doing it.
Juwai, that one? Juwai?
Yes, yes, all of them, all of them. Also, here's a Chinese person. Sometimes people like to, they're like, oh, I only hire a Chinese agent. I'm like, sure.
I bought one.
I've got one right
I
here.
got an Oriental at the time.
Racist people demand racist solutions sometimes. It's a weird thing in some areas of Toronto. They really focus on it. Yeah, but my goal is to isolate it. So I asked them that question specifically so that if there's something some other agent said they would do, I go, oh my gosh, silly me, I forgot that, yeah, of course we do that. Geez, that's small fries, we do that all the time.
Sharon Sultanian goes to Asia and brings back like,
Bustled
loads
of
of
buyers.
people.
Yeah. That I probably would not do. But I would, but if people specifically mention Chinese buyers,
Someone said that to me.
I like to take the wind out of their sails. So if someone is focused on Chinese buyers, I laugh at them a little bit. It's not very polite, but I'll be like, come on, are you serious? It's not 2017 anymore, like they're gone. That whole thing, it doesn't exist anymore. So you can't go back in time. We're going forward, this is over, this just doesn't exist. Did you actually think that that was still happening with busloads of people?
Well, they bought one across the street from me a few months ago. Never moved in.
Yeah.
$3 million.
Do you find that Craigslist and Kijiji are worthwhile? Or do you find it more?
We don't pull a ton of leads. Ever since MLS started doing the automated feed, it's something that we don't get as much out of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it worth paying the $7?
I've never paid it in my life.
Okay.
No. I don't know, actually.
So you don't really put it
You don't boost it?
No, we top post.
What does
We
that
just,
mean?
you take it down, you put it back up every 2 days.
Oh.
So you stay in the first few pages.
Yeah.
That's all we do.
You write it, copy and paste it.
Got it.
Yeah, that's literally it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're not paying Kijiji.
I don't pay Kijiji, no.
It's minimal box.
I spend a little bit on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Facebook's great to get inflated numbers. So if you want to be able to show someone that you're getting traction, Facebook's really cheap to get impressions.
Uh-huh.
That's what I use for that. Mr. Seller, last year, I know we're getting into smaller numbers here, but 7% of homes actually sold because of signage in open houses. This might not be a big sexy number like 49%, but this is still a big number. Almost 1 in 10 homes sold because of an open house or a sign. And the reason that I like to talk about this is a lot of people don't think they need these things, but we think it's really important. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make sure you always have a sign on your lawn. We're gonna make sure that your sign always has an up-to-date rider with information on how to view the home. So for the first weekend, that's gonna say open house this weekend. After that, it's gonna say by appointment only, because we want people to know they have to call in to see your property. Now, if I wanted to do more than one open house, I would change that to help them understand why it's so important that we have your house open every weekend. It depends what you want. I don't want to do as many open houses. I'm low on buyer agents at the moment. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a coming soon sign. So we're going to promote your home in advance of going to MLS. We're starved for inventory, Mr. Seller. This is a great way to get people calling in. Can you imagine how wonderful it would be if I had a list of people waiting for your home to hit the market before it even came out? Now, we talked about doing some touch-ups, some fixing stuff, so we're only going to want this sign on the lawn once you no longer have any garbage on your lawn. So you're going to communicate with me and let me know when you guys are done the renos so that people don't drive by a house that says coming soon with a bunch of windows in the driveway. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, open houses are really, really easy to do a great job of, but most agents are too lazy to do it. Thankfully, we're not lazy, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to put out a ridiculous number of signs. Minimum 10 signs for your property every single day, sprinkled throughout the neighborhood. We want that so that people, no matter how they're coming through, can find us easily. We get the majority of our traffic at open houses is actually from people who weren't out to see open houses. They just were driving by, they saw the house, thought it could be interesting, and they wanted to come in. Now, the other place that agents drop the ball on open houses, Mr. Seller, is they don't follow up, or they wait till the next week to follow up. If you think about the average buyer, they go see 2-3 open houses, maybe they really, really liked one, but then they get home, it's 4 p.m., they gotta wash their kids, do dinner, the house is trash, they get an annoying phone call. The next thing you know, they're up, it's work the next day, and they've completely forgotten about you. Most agents will call them sometime on Tuesday, because Monday morning, you know, stuff lands on your desk, there's a couple surprises you weren't prepared for, blah, blah, blah. So most agents would follow up on Tuesday, but what we found, Mr. Seller, is we get them when they're ready to buy. When do you think buyers buy an open house, buy a property at an open house? It's not till after they've left. What happens is they go home, they get the kids all cleaned up and in bed, and then they talk about their day during dinner or a glass of wine. That's when we bring their phone. So we're calling them before the end of the weekend to make sure that we check in, see if they had any questions, if they had any interest and they want to come back for a second showing. What we found is that by doing this, the chance that we're able to convert them to a comeback appointment is more than double. Does that make sense to you? Awesome. Mr. Seller, there's a few more intangibles that we don't spend money on because they don't produce results. Oh, sorry, I would talk about friends, relatives, fear. I'm going to ask them to put us on their Facebook. And then I talk about the fact that untargetable or unnecessary things are a drain of funds, and what we'd rather do is focus on results. So for example, home builders represent 6% of the market. You're not a home builder. I'm doing this so that they know that I can do math, and clearly 31 plus 49 plus 7 doesn't equal 100%. And I also want to talk about the fact that print, newspapers, and home magazines together barely add up to 1.5%. We don't spend money on these because they don't work. The only time you ever hear of print marketing working in real estate is rural recreational properties. You know, you go up north and you go to get an ice cream halfway through visiting your friend's cottage, and there's that hokey little real estate office, and out front they have the Cottages and Land magazine. You take it home, and then 2 years later you call one of the listings, and surprise, surprise, it's still available. Agents in these areas actually do quite well. This is not how people operate in the city. They're not going to stop and pick up a magazine. You can barely get them to take their eyes off their phone when they're on the highway. We need to be on their phone. We got a question.
What do you mean by home builders?
New construction.
So you don't target?
We don't target these. No, it doesn't apply. This is just in case they're detail people and they want to know why.
So you're not going at, because you know how some people are like, oh, what about the builders? Why aren't you calling the builders when they have a piece of shit house?
That's why I do this.
Okay.
Yeah, this is for them. Usually I spend less than a minute on this slide. Okay. Here's the stuff we're not doing.
Okay, so this
because
is
I'm going to take all my budget and I'm going to put it in the big three.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to other agents, They talked about their stupid flyer campaign. They have less than a 2% chance that that's ever gonna sell a home. Who are they selling, Mr. Seller?
Themselves.
They're selling themselves to the neighborhood. I don't do that. I've got plenty of listings. I focus on using my marketing budget to help my clients sell their home. I don't need to put my face on your lawn. Yeah.
Can you go to the slide before that? What you went through?
Builders also scour
Yeah, there you go.
MLS for the renovation.
Well, these statistics are how buyers found the home that they bought. So 6% represents buyers finding homes that builders built. So that's saying that 6% of the transactions in the marketplace are just because buyers bought new construction. We can't target that. We're resale.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. You got it?
Yeah, right.
Cool. What we do know, Mr. Seller, is that when we, and I'll tie them in again one more time. So when I add all these things together, Mr. Seller, that would be my entire marketing plan for your home. From the way that we're gonna market it to realtors, to what we're gonna do on the internet, how we're gonna ensure that you're listed in various parts online, and we're gonna get a ton of people through your open house. And what we found is that by doing this, there's not a single thing that we've omitted that another agent does that produces results. But I just wanna check, in case there was something that I forgot to mention, is there anything else another agent may have mentioned that he would do that I neglected to go through in this presentation? Can you think of anything?
Go to China and bring back.
Go to China, bring back a bus of people. I might not be the agent for you if that's the market that you're interested in. But the goal is just to figure out what it is that I'm missing. Is there anything? Oh yeah, obviously we do that too. And then we carry on.
Even if you don't, or?
Oh, I'll just figure it out most of the time. Yeah, if they're looking for some special thing that they want me to do you have a popcorn machine you can put outside my open house? Yeah, I do it all the time, I just forgot to say it. Go buy a popcorn machine, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, the other agent said he was gonna put an ice cream truck on my lawn. Yeah, I do it all the time, I'd love to do that, sorry.
Alligator Party Rentals.
Alligator Party Rentals.
Got you covered.
Yeah, they've got my back, we're homies. So, what we do know, Mr. Seller, is that by doing this, we've been able to sell somewhere between 10 and 20 times as much as an average agent sells on an average year. We sell listings faster and we sell them for more money. In fact, just last year alone, Mr. Seller, we had 4 properties in particular that had sat on the market between 1 and 2 years. Each of them had various agents throughout their time on the market, and we were able to sell them all in a matter of weeks through using this system. Because it ensures that no matter what, your home's gonna look in its best light, and it's gonna be in all the places it needs to be. And if you're concerned or you want more information, you should read some of our reviews online. And finally, the last thing you should do, if you aren't convinced by now, is go to our website and look at the way that we present listings. You can go to pathlistings.com, and you can go to our competition's website or the other agents who you're considering and compare the listings that we have on our website with theirs. Remembering that's, again, somewhere between 49% and 96% of whether or not your home sells is going to come down to just that one factor alone, let alone all the other things that we talked about today. Do you have any questions about my plan? And then I move on and start doing the listing detail sheet. That's my listing presentation. Aside from this, I already took you guys through the format a little bit. There's my name. If you guys had any questions or objections that you come up against, now's the time for that. Let's start with questions. Anything about this you guys are curious about or unsure? I know we were kind of talking through as we went through it.
You said that you would be up to doing some objection handling, because I think that
100%.
would be really valuable.
Sure.
What are some of the objections that you receive sometimes? Like, would they be after all this? Because I feel like probably not. Like, are you,
I mean, we'll go through commission stuff, you know.
So I talked to another guy, and he said he would do this all for 2%.
Awesome. Sounds expensive. Because the thing that I'm unsure is you said that he was going to do everything that I said I'm going to do. Oh, well, okay. Well, that sounds like a great deal. You should hire him. Maybe I'm missing something. You won't usually find that.
What?
You know.
Yeah, I have. I did have one gal that did that. I was like, well, no, you'd have to, I had come from the cottage to go down for that, and then I was basically like,
She wanted like 1% or something.
Yeah, no, it was even lower than 2.
And then I was like, and they would do all this. I was like, well, you really have to wonder about how desperate they are. But anyway, I'm gonna go back to my kid and
Yeah.
my dog.
I would say the same
husband,
thing.
And I went back and I noticed she never did list.
Yeah.
So I was glad I stuck to my guns.
I would do the exact same thing that you did. I would do the
Yeah.
exact same thing. Because one, it's not true.
No.
It's just not true. 2, if they are gonna do it all, they have no experience. So they're doing it to get experience. And again, it's not gonna be everything that I just said I was gonna do. So I would, if that was actually what they said, I would call their bluff. Yeah, that sounds great. And when I first said was the opposite, I was like, that sounds really expensive, because you'll get people who be like, yeah, well, you know, got this agent who's gonna do it for 2% total, including the buyer's commission. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sounds like a great deal, you should probably do that. Actually, you know what would be better, is just go to Purple Bricks. If your goal is to go straight to the bottom, you see absolutely no value in having an experienced professional represent you in negotiations, why even have that loser come, I wouldn't use that word, but why even have this person who clearly is terrible at his job come and represent you? Why not just represent yourself? You've already out negotiated him. Just put it on Purple Bricks, it's like $200 or something. I bet they'll do it for a year for free, it'll probably take that long.
Or one I've heard was, just pretty much sell themselves in Toronto. Like, I heard in Brampton, there were 77 offers on a place, so I don't need all that stuff. I don't know why it's always that guy in that voice, but yeah. I don't need all that
His name's Chad, by the way.
Chad.
Or Tucker.
Yeah, or Tucker.
Chad don't need that.
Yeah, no problem. You absolutely don't if you don't care what you sell for. So if you don't care what price you sell for, I can guarantee that you don't need all this stuff. Someone's pocket dialing me back to back. That would be the angle I take. Like, people hire me because they want to sell for a record price and they want to net the most money. If that's not what's important to you, if you want to sell for a low price and save money so you and the buyer can split the smallest amount at the end, there's another agent who can do that for you. That's not my niche. I have no problem telling people that. And when people bring up commission, usually I lead by saying, I am not the most affordable agent you're going to interview. I'm the best option you have. That's where I fit into the puzzle.
I've said what people like to is, well, I'm not like the cheapest, but I'm the best value because nobody's doing all these things, right?
Yeah.
Or they're offloading this onto.
And by the way, Mr. Seller, I'm here at your table telling you that I want to spend $4,000 on staging and then I want to spend $2,000 on media. Do you think I would want to spend $6,000 to go on a ride with you and see if your home's going to sell if I didn't know that it would change the value of your house? I'm not doing this for fun. I don't like throwing money in the air. I'm doing this because from my experience over a decade in real estate, selling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of properties, I know that this will change the price of your property. So what do you want? Do you want to sell for a really cheap, low price, or do you want to maximize what you net? I'm the second category. If you're interested in doing that, we should get started. Yeah. What else do you guys have?
I have a question.
Yes.
For, if you are covering the cost of staging, do you have a clause in your listing agreement that
So
they have to pay you back?
Yeah, no, with that stuff, it's a case by case. You know, if it's a slam dunk listing, I'll pay it as staging, you know. These are based on today's numbers. So if you want to raise your price by $100,000, please tell me before I put the staging in. Because I might decide not to take your listing. That's fair. But I've done all kinds of different deals. I'll pay up front, they pay up front. I'll tell you one thing, there's all these agents like 5%, blah, blah, blah. I would way rather take 2 points on my end and they pay for staging on almost every deal. At the end of the day, it's way less risk. Even if you might net $2,000 more, who cares? How many times have you been hit by 2 renewals? And you're like, Jesus, I spent 30% of my commission to see if this thing's gonna sell. Right? Staging's always more than you think too. So I personally have no problem looking at options with people and making a deal. I'm not their cheapest option, but you know, so there's no one answer to that. Or I'll say I'll pay, if I'm worried about renewals, I had one that I knew was gonna take a while. So I just said like, I'll pay the first $2,000 of your staging out of my commission. You know, you gotta figure out if you're gonna renew or not. What else, guys?
What's the most common objection that you've received that we haven't suggested?
No, nothing really special. Most of what I'm gonna get, I hammer out during the pre-qual and the presentation. So, you know, if they've got, you know, people who need to be there, I already know that. If I arrive and all of a sudden I realize that there's someone else who needs to be at the meeting, they're out there, I'm gonna cut it down to about 20 minutes. I'm gonna find a reason that my designer needs to come through, I'm gonna have her come through, I'm gonna come back with my proposal. So I'm trying to find most of my objections up front. Commission will always come after this, because I won't talk about commission until they've heard everything I'm gonna do, because that's only fair to me. You gotta know what you're buying before we negotiate the price of it. And then from there, I mean, they're either, sometimes they need time. I'll see if I could step out for a few minutes. If they need the night, I've lost a lot more listings trying to push someone into making a decision than being a gentleman and saying, I totally understand. I'll follow up in a day and see where we're at. So I will walk out with it signed if I have tried twice and they say no. So I don't mind doing that. I tried at a month. I was in coaching, I wanted to kill my coach. She's like, you just don't take no if yes is an answer. You know, just hammered people for a month. I lost 9 listings. I was like, okay, it's clearly me, that's fine. I'm gonna go back to doing what works for me. You know what I mean? So I don't mind giving people a bit of space.
Are you leaving anything behind at that point?
Well, I've already got my pre-list. Usually what I do is I follow it up with a very detailed email. So I'll send them like a 3-page long email with everything we talked about, the numbers, the comps, I'll put my commission in it. If they're commission focused, I'll break it all down for them. I'll do a seller net sheet. I'll send them links to my website. I'll send them links to my competition's website because they told me who they were interviewing. I'll find their website and I'll send it to them. Be like, by the way, half the links are broken. They don't have any listings. Just saying. That's usually what I do. And then you keep on them. So I'll follow up. Hey, to reach a conclusion, you have more questions. I always like to follow up, make sure that I've covered everything because you might have thought of something we didn't go through or you might not remember. What were you gonna say?
Second question would be, who does your website? Have you found, in your experience, because you obviously you've done a lot of social media, you've probably gone through a number of companies.
No, I'll be honest, like what I described us doing in social media is not deep. This is the bare minimum you can get away with.
Okay.
I describe it very, in a flowery sense, but really there's people who are much deeper in social media. All we're doing is boost posting ads. This is like a YouTube tutorial away from anyone being capable of doing it.
Okay. What about your personal website?
Our website was very expensive, so it's probably out of reach for someone who's just getting started, but we've been doing this for a while. We've rubbed a few of our, pennies together, and I think at the time we bought it, it was about $20,000. Since then, the company has moved towards only focusing on real estate. I think you'd probably pay them $35 now for a similar website. But that included them rebranding us. So, and they did an excellent job in my opinion. We're really happy with their work. They came up with our team name.
Oh.
So there was a lot that went into it. They're called Artifact, ARTIFAKT. They do a really good job. I highly recommend them. No, we purposefully do not have our headshots on our cards or our website because I just think it's antiquated and cheesy. They say psychologically it's a trust thing, if someone sees your face, they're more likely to believe they can trust you. I just don't think that it gets over the cringiness of us all putting our photos on our cards. And again, if 90% of people are doing one thing one way, I want to do it the other way. Yeah. What else?
When you first started out, did you spend $20,000 on your website?
No.
Perfect.
Heavens, no.
What objection handler would you use if you were competing back when you first started?
That would be a tricky one for why you don't want a really nice website. What would be give me the actual objection, please.
Okay, Sean came in today. He's with Keller Williams. He's got a fantastic website.
Great.
Why isn't yours as good?
So what I would probably do if I was in that seat is I'd probably try to shift their attention to all the negatives of a big team. So for me, because I'm a bigger team, you want to hire me because selling a house is kind of like building a house. Like there's a million little things that go into it, Mr. Seller. And the thing is you don't want me doing your design. I already told you I'm a colorblind straight guy. It's like the worst thing you can possibly have, designing your interior. So I have someone who does that. And if you think about building a house, back to the analogy, if you were to build an entire house yourself, you know, you mix the concrete, you make the foundation, you pour it in, you do the framing, chances are it would take a really long time and you'd make a lot of mistakes while you learned. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Selling a house is the exact same thing. If we were to build another house right next door to that one, exact same plans, but we had a foundation company come in, they lay the foundation with, you know, 10 experts, and the next day the framers arrived and they put all the framing in exactly as to spec and they had years of experience. And then after that you did HVAC, plumbing, electrical, flooring, finishes, paint, drywall, everyone a specialized trade. Don't you think that would give you the best result? So that's that. If I was on the other side of the coin where I was a new agent, I'd say, are you insane? You want to work with a team? These guys, you're going to meet him once, and then you're going to get handed off to his assistant. He might not even show up again until you have an offer. Don't you want someone who's actually going to be there to guide you through this? This is a huge, huge, huge transaction for you guys. This is going to determine your retirement. I have enough experience to ensure you that I'm going to take fantastic care of your transaction, but I'm going to take care because I'm going to be there every step of the way. It's going to be me answering your phone. It's going to be me proofing the brochures. I'm going to make sure everything's perfect because that's what I believe in. You don't want to go with these guys. That's crazy. Trust me. So it's just, I would focus on that, the personalized boutique approach.
Thank you.
No problem. I hope that helps. The why isn't your website better if you don't have a good website? It's a tough one. Because like scripting, we can steer things, but I can't ultimately convince someone that a bad website's better than a good website, if you know what I mean.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I just try to redirect that.
I have an objection. So you haven't sold anything in our neighborhood yet?
You know what's neat about that? A lot of agents do this thing where they just focus on one little neighborhood and they think that it's so great because they see all the houses and they do all this. Nowadays, you don't actually need to go inside every house to be able to price real estate because there's a wealth of information on the internet. And interestingly, me and my team specifically chose not to focus on one area. Can I tell you why? So here's the thing. You gotta imagine, you got this agent in your neighborhood and he's like, oh, I've been here forever, I sell all the homes, I know all this stuff, like everyone blah, blah, blah. I even sold your house before. Here's the problem. If he really focuses on your area and he sells homes just in that area, am I fair to assume that in your area there are a lot of homes that are similar to each other? So yes, there always are, it's a subdivision, right. So you're here in an area where your agent specializes, all the sales he does are in this one area where all the homes are similar. Now, if you were a top agent in a certain area, do you think it's also fair to assume that there's a fair probability he might have more than one home for sale at some times during the year? Mm-hmm. Right. So now all of a sudden, you've got this guy who claims he's representing your best interest and doing all this stuff great for you, and he's got multiple homes all in the same area, all in the same price range, all with the same finishes that are competing with each other. Does it start to seem like something that could have a bias to you? Now, imagine you're this agent, okay? You think you're so great, you got these 5 listings, one of them is driving you nuts. This guy's been on the market for a month, he's overpriced, he's completely unreasonable, he's blowing up your phone. You'd probably want to get to the end of that with him sooner rather than later. And you've got these other 4 homes on the market, and you get a call one day from a buyer who says, hey, I want you to rep me in your area, I understand you're the guy, I see you got all these listings, I want you to help me find a good deal. Great, right? What are you gonna do? You're probably going to work with him, and you got that guy who's driving you crazy. What do you think you're going to do?
Push that.
Yeah.
Right? What just happened? You drop prices in your neighborhood you claim to support. You misrepresented 2 sides of a transaction. And quite frankly, I don't see a way that someone can do that ethically. We're one of the biggest teams in Canada. If I wanted to rule a few blocks and just focus on doing just that, I could easily do that. I choose to serve the entire city because I do not believe I should represent people who compete with each other. It's a bit of a long one, but...
Yeah. A little bit, but...
Masterable.
Got it.
Would you take the time before a listing presentation to see if there is an agent that has a decent market share in a neighborhood?
Not unless they mentioned it.
Okay.
No. I'm pretty good on my feet, so I can usually figure things out as I go.
Mm-hmm.
If I was new, I'd probably spend more time on that stuff. How are we doing? I think we're getting close. One or two more. Anyone else have any questions, thoughts? Ahas? Anyone want to do an aha? What are you guys going to implement?
We need a listing
Ben Kinney's presentation.
It's a good presentation, isn't it?
It's outstanding.
Yeah, it's really good.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
It is really good, but if you looked at, has your team looked at the new presentation on designs?
Yeah, we did yesterday in Bold.
Yeah. Is there anything that you're gonna do with your team to?
I do think I will implement some. I will say though that in my opinion, they're very different presentations that serve different purposes. Ben Kinney's presentation specifically is a presentation on marketing. The presentation in bold and the new slides is a structure for an entire meeting. So if you were starting up from scratch, I think both of them would be a fantastic resource because you could use the structure from bold and the new script to set the groundwork, do the rapport building thing I was talking about in the beginning, get to understand the situation. I do think it's important, if you're asked what you're gonna do to market a property, you should have 10-15 minutes of stuff to yammer on about like I just did. And that was not, from what I saw, laid out in as much depth in the slides that KW has. So I think that they complement each other. Yeah. Any ahas? One more. What's someone gonna put into their listing presentation?
I think we need to be more consistent about sending the pre-list stuff.
Nice, good.
And alter that a little bit.
Yeah, if you're doing the 1-2 punch, you can always drop the pre-list at the first one too. If you do have one of those, like, I've got this really, really crusty old man that I'm gonna try to go see after my appointment after this. And I called him yesterday. If he's home, I'm gonna go see him. I didn't deliver a pre-list, he might not sell for 6 months. So I'm gonna pop by, see the house, leave a pre-list. And then when I come back to do my proposal, I'll have hit both sides, right? So you can do that too. Recently, I don't know if it's the perfect way to do things, but recently I've been doing a lot of the first appointment on a really casual basis. Thanks for coming. I've been doing a lot of my first appointments on a really casual basis. Someone's like, yeah, we're thinking of selling in 6 months. I'll just say, awesome. Hey, would you mind if I came in and took a look? I work with a lot of buyers in the neighborhood. I'd love to know what's coming up. It's a great way just to kind of casually get in the door. And then, you know, you say a few smart things. You don't do your whole presentation. You just make them think that you're someone to consider. And then you get them a follow-up. So I've been doing a little more of that recently too. Yeah.
I like this setting up the hoops and the pre-call to really
Yeah.
subconsciously or what's behind the scenes, they don't even know it, but they're spending time thinking about all the things that you're gonna do.
Even if they don't think about it though, you're reminding them by doing it, aren't you?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because I say I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, and I do every single one of those things.
Right.
We were actually talking about putting this in our pre-qual too, or our pre-list. Send them the information on your home packet.
Yeah.
Feel free to jot them some things in there, right? You'll know if they're a high C if they got it filled in, that's for sure. Cool. Well, guys, thanks. My pleasure. If you guys have questions, feel free. Oh, thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you, so good.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
From his home collection.
I hope it's from deep in your basement, that's awesome. Way to my heart, how did you know?
That's great. Thank you so much for taking a big chunk of your day.
Hey, my pleasure. I'm always happy to help if you guys ever have questions or if you don't want to drive too far east and you have a referral, we'd always love to help you guys get deals closed. We go all the way out to Oshawa and Clarington, stuff like that. And we just did a lot more scripting calls. We're doing some for Bold. If anyone wants to hop on a scripting call in the next few weeks, feel free to get at me and we'll put something together. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool.